Willie Garnick will join us momentarily.
Hmm.
Excited about today's show, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a special guest on at 1 o'clock.
Ooh.
Someone I've been wanting to talk to.
Hmm.
Vanderbilt women's basketball star Michaela Blakes.
Phenom.
Michaela Blakes will join us at 1 o'clock.
She's-
Really looking forward to talking to Michaela Blakes. She scored a Division I women's freshman record, 55 points, in Vanderbilt's overtime win against Auburn on Sunday. I believe it was the second time in 5 games she has scored at least 50 points.
Well, she had the previous record.
Right.
Then she broke her own
She
record.
scored 53 points against Florida. Now she has scored 55 points against Auburn. So Michaela Blakes will join us at 1 o'clock. Really looking forward to talking to her. Tim Hasselbeck, who normally joins us
Mhm.
at 11:30, will join us at 12:30. So we will still have Tim just an hour later. Also, I have something to give away this hour. I will give you the cue to call at 615-737-1025. So be sure to tune in for that. I do have one programming note off the hop.
Mhm.
Due to the call for inclement weather in our area, Smashville Live for tomorrow night has been canceled. So Smashville Live will not air tomorrow as scheduled because of the threat of inclement weather. So if you were planning to go to Smashville Live, do not, because Smashville Live has been canceled and hopefully will be rescheduled.
I'm sure it will.
I'm sure
Hopefully
it will.
it's not as bad as they're sort of kind of predicting. They talked about it a little bit last week, and obviously it's supposed to start possibly tonight, heading into tomorrow. So get whatever you need to get, people. And if it does, snow, stay in and relax. But I got a bone to pick.
All right.
And this
Pick
gets
that
quick.
bone.
Just in time for me to arrive.
Exactly. I got a bone to pick, Willie and Adam. Okay. The Four Nations tournament. It's been great. And I love the play-by-play of Sean McDonald and Bob. I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
Bob
John McDonough,
And
Bob
Mashad
Wischusen.
yeah.
Bob Wischusen.
Wischusen, yes.
Yeah, those are the play-by-play guys.
Yeah, play-by-play guys. But listen, for the love of God, okay? When you're doing a play-by-play game and you bring someone in the booth, and I know it was the great Matthew Tkachuk. I get it. And he's not playing. He didn't play the last game and don't know if he's going to play this game. But
He's expected to play against the Canadiens.
oh, well, that's a good thing. They're going to need him.
There's also a bit of news. We'll do this after.
Okay.
There's a bit of really interesting news for that game, which we'll get to after Derek picks that bone. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so
I'm
even
excited
when
to
you
do that.
have the great Matthew Tkachuk, excuse me.
You were confusing him with Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey.
yeah, exactly.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Well, there's McAvoy, McKinnon.
Yeah, it's a whole
McCabe,
bunch of
yeah,
them.
there's
Matthew McConaughey.
Know who you bring in the booth, okay? Because sometimes the conversation or the answer becomes too long and
Yes.
you start to tune out and you really want to watch the game, but you understand you got this great player sitting here. After a while, you don't even want to hear him no more. I got to a point after about a minute and a half, and I'm like, is he still talking? I'm trying to pay attention to the game. They should have cut that. I think he went about 3 minutes. And
Yeah.
it was like, I'm like, come on, cut it, man.
So if I have this right, because I did not watch the full game just because
Mhm.
of other things that were going on in my household. They were interviewing Matthew Tkachuk, but they were also talking to him while actually
Exactly.
playing on the court.
Absolutely.
They brought him up in the booth.
Yes, they brought him in the
to
booth.
start a period. Now, D Mace, you have hit a really interesting thing that I will tell you from my experience, we debate a lot, especially in
Because
hockey.
how do you cut it off?
Especially in hockey.
Uh-huh.
Now, in baseball,
Mhm.
it's a little easier to do, right?
Yeah.
It's a little laid back, especially if it's just 1 out of 162.
Yeah.
I don't think you should ever do it in a postseason game or something like that, or a huge game. But baseball is a little bit more leisurely as far as the tempo of the
Mhm.
game, right? You can
Yeah,
work in a
slower.
conversation
Exactly.
and still work in the play-by-play,
Mhm.
especially if it's in the early innings of a game. We debate this a lot in hockey. Hockey people, we have this debate at broadcasters meetings.
Mhm.
the broadcast people at the top, the league, they love when you bring in a celebrity. I'll give you an example. Snoop Dogg, a couple years ago, went into the LA Kings booth. And it was hilarious. You know, it was just like, it was several years before he started doing the Olympic stuff, right? But it was really funny and it went over great. And that's the trade-off, because and while that's going on, right, it distracts you from
the game.
Actually calling the game. So I'm a little bit more like you. I say save it for the intermissions. I would prefer not to do that unless it's somebody that can add to a broadcast who's actually becoming maybe an analyst while the game's going on. It's so hard in hockey because the minute you start down the road, I could ask you a really fun question if you're in the booth with me. And then, but the action can turn on a dime so fast in hockey, and the most important 3 plays of the game could happen in 5 seconds.
It's much easier in baseball,
100%,
where the game is happening at a leisurely pace. It's harder to do in a game where it's back and forth, back and forth.
And I think they did it. I don't think they will do it on Thursday. Right? I think they did it
because
yesterday because the games were not. Especially
it wasn't meaningful game. It wasn't
not to the majority of the audience, right? Well, and both teams, they knew that the fate was sealed for both teams at that point. But they did it in some of the other games too.
Yeah, and it just takes away from, especially those that are like leisurely watching that. Oh, I want to watch the Four Nations tournament. I've heard about it, and then you get on and you're excited and you're learning the game as they're talking about the game, but then all of a sudden they bring in somebody in the booth.
They brought in Tony Granato last night while the game was going on, and Granato was in the studio. They brought him in during play, and I thought that was another thing that just didn't flow very well. And as the play-by-play person, Kenny Albert last night, Bob Wischusen and Sean McDonough for ESPN. You're put in a really tough spot because you almost have to interrupt the person.
Yeah.
You could be in the middle. If I have you in the booth with me and I say, Derek, what about the free kick you returned in the AFC Championship game? And you're in the middle of a hockey game and you say, well, I started to my left and I made a great cut. There was a great block. And let me tell you a story. And all of a sudden there's 3 shots. Like, oh, there's a score. Oh, say score. That's not good TV, right?
No, it's not.
And I feel like I'm really being rude to you. Or the other option I have is to let all these great action-packed plays go on, and you just keep talking right through it. There could be a goal scored. That did happen the other night. Kara Hammer, or was it Lindsay? No, Lindsay Rowley. It actually happened twice recently on our broadcast. Lindsay Rowley was interviewing Steven Stamkos' dad during the dad's trip, and the Predators scored right in the middle of his story of Steven going to the Predators and all that stuff. And we were Kara was interviewing Eric Nystrom, and he was talking about playing with Pekka Rinne and Shea Weber on the night that they were being inducted into basically the Predators Hall of Fame. Scored right in the middle. The crowd's going wild, and Eric just kept talking. Just kept right on talking in his interview. So what do you do?
Yeah,
like that?
I know that's a tough dilemma.
I don't like it.
I tuned out. I tuned out.
I don't like it in hockey.
Like, man, please. I turned it for a minute.
So, if this tournament wasn't intriguing enough, some news has recently broken that is going to turn this up to an 11 for you Spinal Tap fans out there. The Boston Bruins announced earlier this morning that Charlie McAvoy is out for the game against the Canadiens on Thursday after suffering an injury. But guess who's coming? Quinn Hughes.
Really?
Yes, Quinn Hughes, captain of the Vancouver Canucks, reigning Norris Trophy winner, pulled out of the tournament at the beginning due to injury, but with McAvoy out, and there are rules about when you can bring an injury replacement.
And they're kind of making them up as they go.
Yes.
Try to be fair to both teams.
Yes. Mike Sullivan, coach of the Americans, said that Quinn Hughes is on his way to Boston.
Wow.
So you've got the one thing that was missing from the game on Saturday. No Cale Makar for the Canadiens. No Quinn Hughes for the Americans. Cale Makar is going to play on Thursday. It looks like Quinn Hughes is going to play on Thursday. Buckle up.
Yes, let the party begin.
You're not bringing in Quinn Hughes to, be sort of an emergency. Maybe we'll need you. Like he is the best all around. He might be in the discussion for the MVP of the league this year. And really the last 2 years, he's that good. But I would say he's a very different type of defenseman than Charlie McAvoy. McAvoy is a great defenseman. He's just not as exciting of an offensive player, but as a defenseman, he is a great defender. And what do you need against Canada? You need defenders. Not that Hughes isn't.
Knock those fast
but
boys
Hughes,
around.
Yeah, Hughes is not going to drill you in the open ice. Hughes's thing is once he gets the puck, you can't take it from him. He's going to evade you. He's going to move it up. That's how he defends. He's not going to, be a physical presence. But that is a really intriguing swing. Now, what do we know about the Tkachuk brothers? Because that's the other
If
developing
I'm not
situation
mistaken,
here.
Mike Sullivan recently said that he expects both of them to play.
But at what percent? That's the
Mhm.
That's
question.
the question.
Those guys are tough as nails, but I think they are legitimately hurt, both of them.
Yes.
For Brady Tkachuk to leave the game in a game that they started with 11 forwards,
Yes.
and he
When did
tried to
leave?
come
The
back in.
Second period?
It might have been towards the end of the first period. I
Okay.
remember he tried to come back in for a while.
Because I know they were talking about
I think
him
he came back in the second period, tried it one time, and it's like this. And they were like, "No, don't worry about it for this game." But they only had 10 forwards,
Yeah.
so
And they were
I'm a
talking
little
about that
concerned
last
if I'm
night.
the USA that the team's banged up because remember Austin Matthews didn't play last night either.
Mhm.
He has been slowed for a while, and quite honestly, he has not looked anywhere close to his full power.
Here's the dilemma. Now that you say that, how do you, because if you have two guys, well, 3 or 4 for the US that are banged up, and there are a few banged up for Canada, but more importantly,
Sure.
the guys that are banged up for the US. As a owner and a GM of a team, it's like
It's hard to enjoy.
yeah, it's like, man, because if you go down now, my season could be completely derailed because of, you're
Yes.
playing in this tournament and then you chose to play even while you were hurt.
Yeah. Well, think about the Ottawa Senators, right? They haven't made the playoffs since when, Adam? I think it was since the 2017.
Since they lost to the Penguins in
Right.
the Eastern Conference Final, right before the
Right.
Penguins played the Predators.
I'll
That's the
never
last
forget.
time the Senators made the
The
playoffs.
Predators had made it. They had won their series against the Ducks. They're in the Stanley Cup final. And I was watching Senators Penguins game 7, and I'm thinking, it'd be a lot of fun to play the Penguins with Sidney Crosby. Like, that would be unforgettable. It'd be unforgettable either way, but to beat Sidney Crosby in the final, that would be something. But I'm also thinking, Pittsburgh's a little bit better than Ottawa. Like, Ottawa was a underdog trying to pull off a big upset. That game went to overtime in game 7. Did it not, Adam? Game
It
7?
did. Yes, it
And
did.
I remember a play. I don't know why this one stands out, but Ottawa had a puck deflected in overtime, and it kind of fluttered, and you think it's going. It landed on the top of the net, or like it bounced off the crossbar and landed on top of the net. That's how close they were to going there. But they have not made the playoffs since then. And so if you're the Senators and Brady Tkachuk goes down, and he's playing for Team USA, like they're like the Canadian fans are like, wait a minute, we can't lose Brady Tkachuk. He's essential. They're trying to fight their way into the playoffs for the first time in years. If you lose Brady Tkachuk, that's a game changer. So that is the double-edged sword of having the best on best play full on. That's why it doesn't happen in other sports. That's why the Pro Bowl, you'll never see a best on best in the NFL. It just will never happen. But that's why you commend these guys for making it mean something, because they could come in there and play a tournament and really not make a gentleman's agreement. We're not going to hit each other, things like that. But they didn't do that. Like, they're playing for real.
So that game is Thursday. That game is Thursday at 7:00. But I want to start this conversation now, and we'll get into it more heavily after the break in a little bit. But another quarterback who could be thrown into the pile of quarterbacks. I'm just imagining, was it at gas stations? They had like the $1 bin, and they had some really interesting DVDs in there, and
99 cents.
old CDs.
They used to do it with tapes too, like like if you're getting gas and you go through they had like a bunch of tapes, and every now and then I think, hey, I haven't heard that in a while. It's not bad.
So I'm imagining this is what the pile of quarterbacks is like. It's just like a bin, and
it is a bin.
There's Aaron Rodgers, and there's Justin Fields, and there's Russell Wilson, and there's another quarterback who could be thrown into that pile.
We'll have to think about the price points of
Right.
some of these various bins
Yes.
because there might be a couple different bins.
Right. Sometimes you would see the bin. I remember this back when Blockbuster was a thing and they would try to sell old movies, right?
Right.
And there would be a movie in there that you're like, wow, I can't believe this movie's in this bin. And then you would go to the counter and they're like, oh, that's not supposed to be in there. That's full price. And you're like, but wait a minute.
That's
It was
the full
in the bin.
$19.99.
It was in the bin. And they're like,
Oh,
someone
my
must have put there by accident. I'm like, no, if it's in the bin, this sounds like a Seinfeld bin.
Right.
If it's in the bin, it should be discounted.
That's right.
But I digress. Derek Carr. Derek Carr could be another one of those quarterbacks. The article we referenced yesterday about the potential salary cap cuts around the NFL on The Athletic. Derek Carr was listed as the Saints selection. And in The Athletic, it said, quote, Carr is the most obvious candidate as the Kellen Moore era begins in New Orleans. During his introductory news conference, Moore was non-committal about the quarterback's future with the team. Cutting Carr would add more dead money to the Saints' league leading total, according to Spotrac.com, but the franchise has a lot of those contracts coming off the books in 2026, which would provide some relief. Even if the Saints stick with Carr, they'll likely need to restructure his deal as they are roughly $51 million over the projected salary cap.
That is a backstory of the Saints.
Yes,
they have
you're
been
telling
doing
me.
I feel like Jared secretly has been doing the salary cap for the Saints and doing the science test of seeing if there actually is a cap because they have been doing gymnastics. Adam, you probably know better than most in
Yes.
this town. For how many years now? Like 4 years.
Olympic level gymnastics.
Like every offseason, I'm reading a story about how the Saints
Yes.
are like $25,000 million.
And it keeps
over
getting bigger and
yeah.
bigger and bigger. But David, we have the clip of Kellen Moore answering questions about Derek Carr. Here's what Kellen Moore had to say about Derek Carr during his introductory news conference.
Derek's a tremendous quarterback in this league. I've had so much respect for him, the journey that he's been on. He's a starter in this league. He's a premier player in this league. He's had a great journey, obviously going from Fresno State to the Raiders and now here, really excited to team up with him and go through this process. And so just like any player on this roster, I just got here a few days ago and I'm excited to go through this journey with all of them.
That was Kellen Moore, who I believe, I don't know if this was the answer to that question, but was asked point blank if Derek Carr would be the team's starting quarterback in week 1. And again, the word that's been used a lot to describe his response is non-committal. Now, in fairness to Kellen Moore, as he said in that clip, he had just taken the job. He had just won the Super Bowl in New Orleans, taken the job with the Saints. So usually in those settings, you don't make a lot of declarative statements because you don't want to box yourself into a corner. So in fairness to him, he had just been on the job for like 2 days. But at the same time, I think it's also fair to wonder if he had been hired by the Jacksonville Jaguars, if he would have had the same response about Trevor Lawrence, which I don't think he would.
I don't
No.
think so. You know what it reminds me of, D. Mace? It's exactly the tone that Brian Callahan took with Derrick Henry last year at his opening press conference. He had the same type of non-committal, respectful answer, but you could read into it and say, I think it's pretty clear. At least it seemed like it to me.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty clear to me that the Saints don't have a choice. They're going to move on from Derek Carr.
We are going to get into that because I've heard multiple people say this. Who's going to play quarterback for the Saints if it's not Derek Carr? Well, as the resident Saints fan, I'll kind of dig into this a little bit. We'll do that next. But if you have any thoughts on Derek Carr, 615-737-1025. He does have some history with multiple members of the Titans coaching staff, but we'll get into the nitty-gritty on Derek Carr coming up next. Nashville's best deal of the week is from Bavarian Beer House, located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy traditional German beer, brats, giant pretzels, and more in their expansive beer hall and garden. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals and get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last.
All right, let's talk League Company. We just talked a little bit of hockey with the Four Nations face-off coming to a head on Thursday night, and then the Predators are back in action on Saturday night. Let's hope Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar really play super hard or a little banged up and not at 100% on Saturday night. That would be fun. But it is always fun when the Avalanche come to town. They are so talented. So we'll see you Saturday night in Smashville, and Lead Company will be a big part of our coverage on the radio, anchored by Max Hurst at the start with the pregame show, and then Pete Weber and Jay Moore on the call of the game. Lead Company, meanwhile, servicing houses. Hey, we got some really, really cold temperatures coming up. We got some weather. If your heater isn't working, look, I told you back in the fall, make sure you get it checked. But if you have a crisis, Lead Company's there for you. Keep this number ready, 615-567-1000 or leadcompany.com. But hopefully you took my advice and your heater's running fine and you have the security of knowing that it's been checked. So get ahead of the game for the summer. Same thing's going to happen. You know it's going to be 95 to 100 for about 2 straight weeks at some point in the summer. Make sure your air conditioning is working efficiently and you're not paying more for your bill because it's having to work harder. 615-567-1000 or leadcompany.com. It's Lead Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
I would also tell you this. There are a lot of people. Remember, a ton of coaches watch Saints tape this offseason, right?
Yeah.
Because they have head coaching vacancy and people are studying the roster. I heard a lot of positive things from those coaches about Spencer Rattler when they went through the tape and they saw a guy who looks like he can be a potential future starter in the league. Last year, I was at the Monday night game when they got shut out by the Packers. And I mean, Spencer Rattler was throwing to literally one of the coaches walked up to me pregame, and I'm like, how's Spence doing? He goes, he's doing good. He's got to meet these guys he's throwing to tonight. But like literally, they were down to the nubs of practice squad guys. MVS was out that night. I mean, their entire team was hurt. They had no offensive line, no wide receivers. But the tape for Rattler was pretty good. When you're maxed out on the cap and you've got an older, expensive roster like the Saints do, you would think that points toward keep the veteran quarterback, weak-ish division, just go try to win. But if saying we're going to roll with Rattler and move on from Derek Carr saves you some money and gives you more flexibility to build out the rest of the roster, I think you have to consider it.
That was Tom Pelissero, NFL Network insider, on the Rich Eisen show last week, talking about what the Saints could do with Derek Carr. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So I did some research on this. I found a great article in the Times-Picayune, which is a great name for a newspaper, by the way, the New Orleans Times-Picayune, talking about the decisions that the Saints have with Derek Carr. And they laid out some of the scenarios. Number one, New Orleans designates Carr a post-June 1st cut. This would offer no immediate relief. The Saints would have to carry his entire $51.5 million cap hit until June 2nd, but it would clear $30 million in cap space after June 2nd. So that's one thing they could do. Designate him a post-June 1st cut. Number two, the Saints cut Carr outright, in which case they would eat an immediate $50.1 million dead cap hit, with about the amount of a veteran's minimum contract in relief. In this scenario, the Saints would also have a void at starting quarterback, with roughly a fifth of their cap space being allocated to a player who is not on the roster. Scenario number three, a trade partner emerges, and the Saints can work out a deal that sends Carr to another team that needs a quarterback. If New Orleans decides Carr is not part of its future, this is the most palatable option, as the team would recoup $11.3 million in 2025 cap savings while also adding assets. Carr does, however, have a no-trade clause. So those are the three options. To me, I'm not trading for Derek Carr.
Of course not.
I'm not
It's
trading for Derek
You're going
Carr.
to laugh. Like if we thought about like, let's have a play acting thing. And you say, I say, Derek, would you like to trade? This is Willie from the Saints. Would you like to trade for Derek Carr in this big contract? And here are all the numbers. Yeah, exactly.
Now,
That's what you get.
How much money
You
is
start
left
laughing,
on his
and then there
deal?
would be a click, and then the dial tone.
I'll have to look that up.
Let me see. I am not totally like 100%, sort of. I'm not opposed to the trade. And hear me out. That's why I asked what monies are left on his contract.
But that's the
Yeah,
crux of
and-
it. It's not that he's a
exactly.
bad quarterback.
And,
He's okay.
and that's
He's
what
okay.
that's what
But
I'm
you
leading
can't get
to.
tied financially.
No,
to
no.
him.
But say if he has 3 years left on his contract, which I think he has about 3 or 4. 3. Let's just say he has 3 years left on his contract. Whether you cut him, whether you pick him up as a free agent or you do a trade with the Saints, it may end up roughly being the same amount that you were going to pay him.
He signed a 4-year, $150 million contract with the Saints in 2023.
So he got basically 3 years left on the deal.
2 years remaining.
2 years remaining on the deal.
Okay.
My thing is, now I would push back if they want a third or fourth rounder, anything above a fourth rounder, I'm pushing back. Like, nah, I just wait for y'all to cut him. But if they want a fifth rounder, and I take the remainder of his contract, I may do that as opposed to letting him hit the free agent market. Maybe because he has the no trade clause, he says, you know what, I'm going to hit the market. I'm going to force y'all to cut me. So then if I do want to go to the Titans, it's because I want to, not because y'all are sending me there. And then I maybe can work out a deal that's bigger than the one that they would be receiving.
But he's got an enormous hit
Mhm.
for these last 2 years. It was designed to get out after this year.
But,
Here's the spot,
but
right?
if they
read it.
trade him, they're getting out of it. The
You
Saints
want me to
are.
read those
Yeah, go
figures
ahead.
again?
For the next 2 years of his contract, you would be giving up an asset and having these numbers.
So if the Saints cut him
Mhm.
post June 1st,
Mhm.
they would have to carry his entire $51.5 million cap hit until June 2nd.
Right.
Mhm.
But it would also clear $30 million in cap space after June 2nd. If they cut him outright, they would eat an immediate $50.1 million cap hit
Right.
with about the amount of a veteran's minimum contract in relief.
And of course, if you're the team that's trading for him, in this case, let's say it's the Titans, you're not worried about the bill that the Saints have to pay. What you're worried about is, what am I taking on? So that's the question. But I see his cap hits right now.
You're taking on
of
30 and 40
51
million.
million cap hit and a 61 million cap hit, but some of that has already been paid in the
Mhm.
signing bonus, right? So that's really what you're asking,
Mhm.
Derek, is what's the net result?
Mhm.
What am I paying for the last 2 years, and what has been already paid for by the Saints? But still, that's a high. It looks like a high hit
Mhm.
that you're going to take, and that's I don't want to.
Hey,
It is
okay.
only for 2 years.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's-
And that's kind of the ballpark that you're
Mhm.
looking for. You want to buy yourself 2 competitive years where you have
Exactly.
better than average, hopefully, quarterback play
Mhm.
while you try to figure out the big picture guy who's
Exactly.
going to be quarterbacking in your new stadium, which is not going to be Derek Carr.
The question that the Saints have to ask themselves in this scenario is, are they willing to take a significant hit cap-wise this year in order to stabilize the salary cap in the future? The other question they have to ask is, do they intend to compete at the highest level in 2025, or do they want to set themselves up to draft a quarterback in 2026? Speaking as a Saints fan, Derek Carr raises the floor for the Saints, but not significantly. That team has a lot of problems. Derek Carr is not going to take this team to the playoffs. I don't know if this is a perfect comparison, but this is where my mind went
Mhm.
earlier today when thinking about this. The Commanders in 2023 started Sam Howell at quarterback, knowing that he probably wasn't the long-term answer. But the year before, they had started Taylor Heineke. They had started Carson Wentz. Sam Howell got a start in there as well. But they started Sam Howell all 17 games, knowing that they probably weren't going to be competitive in 2023. And they were right. And they ended up with Jaden Daniels. So I'm wondering if the Saints see it the same way. We start Spencer Rattler this season. We know we're not going to be great. But if we're bad, we're set up to draft, hopefully, our next franchise quarterback next year. So that's the question I wonder with the Saints. Do they see it similarly to the Commanders with Sam Howell, with Spencer Rattler? And they take on a huge dead cap hit, getting rid of Derek Carr, but it does help them down the road. That's why I'm wondering if Carr could become available.
I mean, whether it be because of, them cutting him and marking it post a June 1st sort of transaction. So whether they do that or they trade him, I think the Titans have an opportunity, if that's the road they want to travel down, to add him as their starting quarterback, at least for the next 2 or 3 years. I think Carr's a good quarterback. I think of him more so like Ryan Tannehill. Now he will be coming to a situation, different from Ryan's, because Ryan came in, Derrick Henry was already here. There was some of these other guys still here. They had more of a team when Ryan Tannehill came. He would be coming into a situation where they don't have much of a team. They got a few players here and there, but they are truly building. Do you want him to be a part of that? Does he want to be a part of that? That's yet to be determined. So I guess that's how you got to think about it.
Derek, here's something that you said about Carr that intrigues me, because I am, neutral. I'm lukewarm
Mhm.
about him. Obviously, the first thing would be financially. Can you get it in a ballpark where you're not overpaying? You're not going to put yourself in the position that the Saints have put themselves in, and the Jets have put themselves in
Mhm.
with Rodgers. Just 2 years ago, They jumped in there. They paid big money, and they're getting burned. They got absolutely zero return on the investment. Now they're having to dig their way out of a big financial hole. There's a penalty for doing what they did. I'm trying to avoid that if I'm the Titans. I'm trying to, with all of the options out there, take the one where, because it's not a long-term solution. But here's the thing that intrigues me about his style. What does he do? He gets rid of the ball. He does not, and you've talked about this a lot. The Brian Callahan offense is designed to get the ball out quick. And Will Levis was a pitiful match for that. Mason Rudolph actually is more of his skill set.
okay. Yeah.
He's okay. He just doesn't have the arm to really be a threat more than just be a replacement level. Carr's a little bit better than that. Carr had the best sack rate in the NFL. Now, if this doesn't at least make you go, oh, that sounds a little bit better. What did Will Levis do? He had the worst sack rate in the league as far as the percentage of times that he drops back that he gets sacked. And a lot of it, yeah, the offensive line is still a problem. But when Mason Rudolph was quarterbacking, Mason Rudolph got the ball out a lot quicker. He didn't get sacked nearly as often. Carr, year in, year out, is pretty good at getting the ball out. And if that's a better fit for Brian Callahan's offense, I'm a little bit more intrigued in that because he's not 41 like Aaron Rodgers. He will be 34, no spring chicken. But I think you could say, could I get a couple of decent years out of him while I build the rest of the roster? I think that's worth kicking the can on. I'm not giving up a draft pick, though.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on Derek Carr as a potential solution at quarterback for the Titans. 615-737-1025. Tune in today to 94.9 The Fan for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores host Air Force. Pregame begins at 12:45 and first pitch is at 1. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. D. Mace, Finn, Ginendonic, 1025, 1063, The Game, talking Derek Carr. One texter on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com says, just like the Titans to be interested in a hurt player. Derek Carr missed the end of the season for the Saints with a fracture in his left non-throwing hand.
I don't consider that.
So unless I missed another injury, I'm not sure a fracture in his non-throwing hand scares me off.
All right, let's
Not at all.
go down year by year of Derek Carr's games played in the league. 16, 16, 15, 15, 16, 16, 16, 17, 15, 17.
So where's
And
this
then
hurt
10
quarterback
last
at?
year.
Where's this hurt quarterback?
It's the first time he's ever been hurt.
Yeah.
Was last year. Now that's impressive. And part of that is what we just talked about in the last segment. He gets rid of the ball. He doesn't get hit as often as other quarterbacks. That was an issue with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Was he did hold on to the ball. And that does put your offensive line in a tough spot, and it does make you more prone to injuries.
This and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think there are some Titan fans out there that maybe, just maybe, you're delusional in this sense. And listen, I get that way too. So you're
Just
you're
a
not,
maybe.
Yeah, you're not in this boat alone. I get delusional sometimes about certain things. Not about my football teams or more sports teams, but I think some Titan fans are delusional to think that, oh, if you're not giving us Patrick Mahomes or Jayden Daniels or, Lamar Jackson, then we don't want the rest of them. Huh? Derek Carr may not be those guys. You are absolutely right. He may not be Patrick Mahomes. He may not be Jackson or Josh or Jaden or Stroud. He may not be those guys, but he damn sure isn't Will Levis. He damn sure isn't Mason Rudolph. He's not the bottom half of the league. He's right around that 13,
middle
14,
third, right?
50. Yes.
Middle third.
And you can win a championship with a guy like that. Okay? So when you talk about, quarterbacks and say, well, we don't want that injured quarterback. That quarterback ain't this. No, this is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I think Sam Darnold's a good quarterback, but I don't want to commit to Sam Darnold for 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so one texter, Josh from Nevada, said that Derek Carr did break his leg, which is true, but it was at the end of the 2016 season.
Okay,
so
yeah, I remember
that is
right
far
so
removed.
He missed. So he played 15 games. That was his best. They went 7-9. 2015 or 2016.
It was 2016.
So
December
did he
of
miss the playoff game?
Yes.
Okay, he still made 15 starts, and they went 12-3.
If that was my very quick research, but I do, before we get to our phones, there is one text that I want to get to from Jeff. I heard Jared mention this in his discussion of Derek Carr yesterday. Jeff says, how many coaches has Carr played for that weren't fired while Carr was the quarterback? That was a point that Jared made about Derek Carr, that every coach that he's played for has been fired.
Look, let's not confuse him. Let's not confuse him with Joe Montana. Okay, he is the middle third. He is your middle class quarterback, and he is here is records as a starter. Okay, we've just mentioned 2016, his best year, they were 12-3. His first year, they were 3-13. So that's like a flip. Then there's a 7-9 in between, 6-9, 4-12, 7-9, 8-8, 10-7, 6-9, 9-8, 5-5.
I swear, man, this is what irritates me. When the question is, answered, it's like somebody then pushed the goalpost again. It's like, whenever has this been a prerequisite for a quarterback? How many coaches did you get? How many coaches got fired when you were underneath center? That don't make a hell of a damn thing, okay? Maybe the whole team was just bad. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe, just maybe, he didn't agree with the owner.
I would say that Carr is a guy that is a reflection of your roster. That's why the money that you would invest is the key, because you need resources to build the rest of the roster. That would be the main question mark.
But what
I
I'm
think
saying
you know
is,
what you're getting from Carr. He's not going to elevate your roster, but he's also going to give you steady play if you give him a chance.
But what I'm saying is that I've never heard anyone say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard anyone say, and when describing a quarterback, how many coaches did he get fired? That has
doesn't make-
never,
no.
that has never been a question. Now all of a sudden it's a question. Again, I think some Titan fans are delusional. Like y'all just think you deserve that guy. Every team doesn't. Teams luck out and get that guy. Okay, teams that are bad. You're bad. Maybe you'll luck out and get that guy, but it's not like you deserve that guy. That's the part that I'm getting to. It's like, when did that become a conversation in regards to how we measure up quarterbacks?
Adam from Portland is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Dude, this is such a weirdo conversation to me. Like, I don't think we deserve Derek Carr. Like, that's wacky. Imagine having
But what's
the
bad?
number one
What's
overall
bad
pick.
about Derek Carr?
Imagine-
Tell me what's bad about
I
Derek
don't think
Carr.
he was saying that Derek Carr was bad. He's saying that the Titans don't deserve Derek Carr. Is that what you just said?
Correct. I'm saying we don't deserve that. Like, we don't deserve Mahomes, but we don't deserve to be stuck in Derek Carr world, do we? Like,
Okay, what
can you
is-
imagine a world where you have the number one overall pick and you can't somehow manipulate or leverage that into a decent, at least an opportunity for a good quarterback?
So Derek Carr is not a good quarterback?
Well,
He's
what,
Ryan Tannehill, but do we have
What-
Derek?
what
we
you-
had Derek
they won a
Henry
lot of games
to
with
run
Ryan
for.
Tannehill.
Exactly.
Adam, who's your what's your
Who
solution?
should they go get? Who's out there that they should go
Tell
get?
me who you got. Who you got?
I'm saying the fact that y'all are having 30 minutes
Who?
on Derek
Give me-
Carr
give me
lets
who you
know
got.
how bad this is. Like, I don't know
Who do
the
you
answer to
have?
who you get.
Adam, I know.
I agree with you on that
yes,
one.
it's
We
not
agree
like
with
you
on
can go to
that,
the grocery store and Joe Montana and Steve Young and Roger Staubach and Terry. They're not over there. So you
Right.
have what you have. Tell me who you want. If you don't want Derek Carr, I'm not saying they should go get Derek Carr. I'm just giving you the shopping list that's at the grocery
my
store
blueprint.
right now.
If everything worked out the way I wanted it to work out, Quinn Ewers is somehow the quarterback of the Titans,
Quinn
and
Ewers.
you use the picks around him. But he's a good quarterback. I'm telling you, if you want me to
Okay.
pick one,
All right.
he's the secret.
What
that I
round
get
are you
like the
taking
third
Quinn
round.
Ewers in? The third
I
round?
would find a way to get him. Yeah, for sure.
In the third round?
Adam's gone.
They
Okay,
don't have a third round pick, so you better
Yes.
get him in the second round.
yeah.
Yes.
Or unless
A
you think he's going to be in the
manipulated
fourth
And
trap.
I
round.
agree with Robbie Stanley on something that he has said a couple of times when it comes to the NFL draft. He's tired of the Titans, taking a flyer on insert quarterback here. Like, if you're going to draft a quarterback, he better be the one that's going to be
Well,
under center.
You can say that all day. But
I know.
Every quarterback you take is a flyer. You can take Cam Ward with the first pick. He's a flyer.
Well, you would hope not.
No, he's a flyer. Achilles Smith, that was a flyer. Didn't work very well.
None of us are arguing,
Ryan,
by the way.
you're going to miss more than you hit when you take the quarterback high, especially if it's a guy that is moving up because you're so desperate for a quarterback. This is not Andrew Luck or Peyton Manning or Joe Burrow that going in is an elite talent. There are pretty significant question marks on Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who are the two highest ones. Ewers would be the next version of a Malik Willis.
We don't
right?
even know what Ewers is in
Right.
NFL. So
I just want to make this clear.
Mhm.
The Titans are not in a position right now to seriously compete
No.
for a championship and maybe not even a playoff spot.
Right. Next
We're-
year,
right.
That's not a priority. The priority is building the roster.
Right. So
down
we are
the road.
talking about quarterbacks who could be on this team
Mm-hmm.
for no more than a couple of years that get you to hopefully the franchise quarterback. We're
Yes.
not sitting here saying
It's a bridge.
Derek Carr is the
Mhm.
answer to all of the Titans' problems, or Aaron Rodgers, or Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins. We're not saying those guys are the answers. Of course they're not. That's why they're available in the first place. It's just to get us from point A to point B so the Titans can be competitive again. That's what we're
Right.
talking about.
So I disagree with Robbie. We would love to
Yeah.
sign up for hey, I wish they wouldn't have to take a flight. There is no option.
Yeah,
There is no option on the board that isn't a flyer. Even if it's you take Sanders or Ward, that's a flyer. You got people that don't even have a first round grade on those guys.
Yeah.
Mark from Nashville, our friend Mark is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Mark, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Adam?
Good.
D-Mace,
What's going
Willie,
on?
what's up, y'all?
What do we got, Mark? What do we got?
Hey, look, man, that last caller, Adam, I just don't know what to say, man. Why, of all people, Quinn Ewers? Come on, man. This man's projected to be a 5th, 6th round pick. Come on, now. His stock is falling.
I just have to say, I
No.
love feuds between callers. So if
Yeah.
we're getting a Mark versus Adam
Stir it
feud,
up. Stir it up.
I'm
Mark. Go
okay.
ahead.
Stir it up, Mark.
Because Adam will call back tomorrow.
Exactly.
And then he'll get his.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Hey, I'm going to call you out on that. I mean, come on, Adam. Come on now. I mean, I know y'all are not saying that Derek Carr's the answer. I mean, you know, as far as bridge quarterback or whatnot, he's a decent quarterback. He's capable. Like Willie said earlier, and D. Mace, he's had some good years. You can't say anything about injuries because, hey, he's pretty much consistently played 15, 16 games every year. He didn't have a great year this year because he got injured. But I see nothing. I'm not a Titans fan. I see nothing wrong. I mean, when he was in Oakland, you had Gruden. I mean, we know why Gruden got fired. Then you had Josh McDaniels. We know why Josh got fired. So you can't blame that on Carr. We know why Dennis Allen got fired. Can't blame that on Carr. So that, as far as a bridge quarterback, I don't see anything wrong with that. But Quinn Ewers, come on here, man. Come on, that's not going to work right there. I mean, if that's the case, trade a pick and go get Hendon Hooker from Detroit or something. I'd rather go with him than I would Ewers because at least he does have a little knowledge and experience in the game playing behind my guy up there, Jared Goff, up there at Detroit. So, I mean, come on now. Let's not get crazy with this. Quinn Ewers. Man, come on. I mean, I don't get that, but
All right. Your opinion
man,
is noted. And so, Mark, just be listening tomorrow when Adam
Exactly.
calls back.
Yes.
It has a full report on Quinn Ewers. The Hendon Hooker
Thank you
is
for
an
the call, Mark.
interesting
Thank
one,
you, Mark.
too, because he's so unique. He was a first-round pick. Golf has exploded, of course. And Hendon Hooker is already at an age where you kind of want to see what he's got. Like, you can't just develop him because he's 27 years old. Like, what is he?
We will continue this
He's
conversation.
a flyer. That's what he is.
He is a flyer. We will continue this conversation next. We have a lot of reactions. So we will continue the conversation on Derek Carr and bridge quarterbacks in general at 615-737-1025. But I did say at the top of the show that I will have a giveaway, which we are going to do right now. So if you are caller number 5 at 615-737-1025, you will win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Avalanche at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday night. The puck drop is at 5. Be caller number 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you will win a pair of tickets to see the Predators and the Avalanche at Bridgestone on Saturday at 5. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game. One texter said that we jumped on Adam.
All right, let's talk Loan Pronto. If you own a home, you can get money out of your home's equity in less than a week with Loan Pronto. They are the leader in quickly converting home equity into cold hard cash so you can address your financial needs. Pay off the big credit card bill you've been trying to do for a while, or start that home remodeling project as the weather gets warmer here. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access that cash from your home. No paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, and often no appraisal. For example, one client got $150,000 out and paid off the credit cards. They also paid off a car loan, and they started a home improvement project. You can do a lot of different things with the flexibility that Loan Pronto can give you. So give them a call and get approved in as little as 1 day with no hard credit pull. LoanPronto.com is the website. The phone number 615-499-5780. That's LoanPronto.com, 615-499-5780. Get the money you need. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D. Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Tim Hasselbeck will join us at 12:30. Usually joins us at 11:30, but Tim's got important things to do. He still made time for us. He'll be on at 12:30. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, really excited about this. Michaela Blakes, Vanderbilt's women's basketball star, will join us at 1 o'clock, fresh off scoring, 55 points.
55 in a
55
game that
apiece.
they were behind. It's
They needed all of those 55
yes,
points.
they were behind by 15. This is always what impressed me. If somebody says so-and-so scored 50 or 55, the first thing I want to look at is, all right, was this a blowout where you guys won easily, and at the end of the game, you're trying to feed so-and-so to get the extra point? That has not been the case in either of her 50-point games. They needed
all
those.
All
That was
100 and what? A total of 108
Yeah.
points somewhere.
She
around
scored 53 against Florida late last month. So I believe it's twice in the past 5 games she's topped 50.
She's a freshman.
And yes, I am looking forward to that conversation. We will have Michaela Blakes of the Vanderbilt women's team at 1 o'clock. But let's continue our conversation on Derek Carr, because boy howdy,
there.
do we have a lot of reaction. Adam did text back in, Adam from Portland, responding to Mark. Mark, all about that BS. Ewers going to be the only QB1 from that draft. Trade back, pick up a third, and get Ewers there. Carr is about as exciting as his brother. As I listen to this, I'm thinking about something we used to say in middle school. I don't know. Me and my friends used to do this when there would be arguments in class. We would go, schoolyard bash, schoolyard bash, schoolyard bash. And that's what I'm thinking of with Adam.
Maybe at the playground at 4.
Were you
Right.
ever part of the schoolyard bash?
Heck no.
You weren't a basher?
No, I was not. I was not. So let's just get to some reaction about Derek
Okay.
Carr, because I do think people think that we are heralding Derek Carr as the answer at quarterback, the long-term answer at quarterback. Wes in Clarksville on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com says, if I had to have Carr, I just assumed I'd stick with Levis. What does Carr give you? 4 more wins? A 7-win season is not getting us anything. All it does is mess up next year's draft order. Carr will have to have a Vikings team to succeed. We are far from having that.
I understand that argument. That is a valid argument. This is why, again, I think it's important to communicate your objective. And you don't have to do it today. But once you have your approach and when you're done with the draft and free agency, you say, this is our objective for the year. And don't try to fool people in thinking that you're going to go win this or that. I do think it's a perfectly okay strategy to build as many assets as you can and basically say, look, we're going to get what we get this year. This is you don't want to say a throwaway year, but it's a rebuilding year. That would be a rebuilding approach, would it not? What the texter just threw out.
Now, read that if you have it on hand again.
He's basically saying
All right,
Carr
so-
makes you a mediocre team, and a mediocre team doesn't really
Hold on,
get you
David's
anywhere.
got
So
to.
Mark just called in and he told me to tell you guys that he will be calling back to rebuttal tomorrow.
Okay.
I like it.
Very predictable. But
Now,
so right, I mean, is that to the gist of what he's
Okay,
saying?
I've got a
Carr makes you a 7-win team. A 7-win team gets you pick number 12 or 13.
This was Wes in Clarksville. He said if he had to have Carr, why not just stick with Levis? What
I'm
does
not
Carr
doing
give
that.
you? 4 more wins? A 7-win
Right.
season is not getting us anything. All it does is mess up next
Right.
year's draft. order.
here's what Wes
Will
has-
Levis is not an
yes,
option
Here's what
as the
Wes,
starting quarterback.
Wes, you're missing a point. If they want to go back to Will Levis, then hey, listen, that's what they do. I've seen enough of Will Levis to know that he's not a starting quarterback in this league. I've seen enough of Derek Carr to know he is a starting quarterback in this league. Okay, so you say, well, he would get us 4 more wins, 7 wins, and I mess up our draft for the next following season. They ain't messing up the draft. You just got to learn how to draft within the draft. It's never a bad thing if you're drafting, 18th, 19th, to 20th. That means you had a good team, and you just got to figure out how to get more good players because you're not drafting or picking at the top spot. Listen, what Derek Carr does for Brian Callahan. Okay, what he does for Brian Callahan, and then Brian Callahan can show the organization he can run my offense efficiently. And this is what it looks like when it's ran efficiently. Okay, we can move the ball down the field. We can score some points. It may end up not necessarily because Derek Carr is doing something otherworld. It may just be because he can run the offense efficiently. And then they're adding more players to the mix, not the same players from last year. Okay. What Derek Carr gives you is an opportunity to run your offense. That's why you don't stick with Will Levis, because I know, like me, you have seen a lot of Will Levis, and I'm sure, Wes, that you would be, up to your ears angry if they brought Will Levis back again to see the same old stuff that we saw last season. Okay, Derek Carr isn't the Messiah. Okay, he's not, and that's not what I'm trying to say. I want to see good football. I want to see the Titans play good football. And I think Derek Carr gives them an opportunity, not just Derek Carr alone, but there may be another quarterback out there. But for the sake of the argument, Derek Carr is the guy right now.
One texter says, watching Callahan's offense last year, I think all it needed was a quarterback who can get the ball out quick. I don't think it's a big play offense. It's dink and dunk, middle of the field, quick plays, and Carr would do good. I also want to say, I think with good, competent quarterback play, the Titans are closer than everyone thinks. I genuinely believe Callahan was just as surprised by Levis's play as everyone else was, which is the point you made, Willie, about Carr's ability to get the ball out quick.
Yeah, he would mask a problem that you hope will be a year better next year, too. I would hope that Skoronski and Latham, with another year starting next year, will be a good tandem on the left side.
Yeah, hopefully.
You hope that they will be a plus and not a minus. Maybe not all pro level yet. You hope that they continue to move in the right path. But it's not you got a really inexperienced left side. I think you're hoping to have a solid, if not good, left side. I really think Latham could be really good. Brian Callahan was very optimistic about the progress Skoronski made. And remember, that's coming from a guy that knows offensive line play, Bill Callahan, right? He's not going to I do think that they're being sincere, that they like the progress of those guys. You hope Cushenberry can come back. You've got to fix the right side, but now you're not fixing 5 spots. You're fixing 2 spots.
Exactly.
That's easier to do, and you've got a quarterback who's going to get the ball out.
So
if they go down this road.
We were looking at Derek Carr's value around the league, how much he's making. So I was looking at just average salary of quarterbacks through last season. So Derek Carr's average value was $37.5 million. That was tied for 16th with Aaron Rodgers, his contract with the Jets, which no longer exists. But Derek Carr tied for 16th at $37.5 million annual average value. So the question the two of you were having during one of our breaks was, how much would you pay Carr if he were cut?
That is everything. Because if you look year by year, analytically at his numbers, he doesn't have a great win-loss record. He hasn't been but he is consistently, what I would say, better than average. And that's saying something, right? Especially when you're coming off a year where you got the worst quarterbacking in the league outside of the Cleveland Browns.
Exactly.
That would look a lot better week in and week out if you got, because that's quite a bit higher than Mason Rudolph, right? But again, I'm not saying it's going to be Joe Montana, but
it's
better than average quarterback play will make a difference.
Exactly. And again, I think there's this thought of, we need to get and I get it. You would want to have that guy, but that guy isn't available at this point.
Right.
So
you're going to the grocery store.
Exactly.
And with the snowstorm coming, sometimes you go to the grocery store, there's not a lot on the shelf.
So basically it's Instacart. Okay.
Derek Carr had a 63.4 QBR last season. Now I'm not sure
that's pretty good.
I don't think he was in the I don't think he's in the qualified.
Right. He only played 10 games.
But 63.4 would have been 13th in the NFL.
And that wasn't like a career high. He consistently is in that neighborhood for the last 5. Let's go year by year. Since, let's just say, let's not go back ancient history, but since 2019, 64.1, 64.3, 58.4, 57.6, 56.5, 63.4. That's consistent. That's better than average quarterback play.
63.4, just some other quarterbacks around that were qualified passers. So again, Carr 63.4, Justin Herbert 64.8, Matthew Stafford 64.7, Baker Mayfield 61.6.
Right. And again, it's not the end all be all. You can go through everybody's traits and say, well, let's look deeper into that. It's trying to put everything a guy does into one number, which is not easy to do for one stat. It's a starting point. But why is he higher? He doesn't get sacked. He gets rid of the ball, and he doesn't throw a lot of picks.
Yeah. I understand what you may want. Okay. Like I type in my stuff, my grocery list at Instacart, and if they don't have what I want, then they always say, hey, here's an item that can replace that. It may not be as good as my first option, but okay, this is where I'm left. All right, I got to get that kind. If I want to make the dinner that I'm making tonight, I got to get that kind. That's what this is about. Yeah, I understand, fans. You want your first choice. Whatever that first choice, you want a Patrick Mahomes type of quarterback. But as we're going to shop for Mahomes type quarterback, we realize that Mahomes ain't here. Neither is Jackson, neither is Allen, neither is Daniels, neither is Stroud, neither is Herbert. What's here is Derek Carr's. That's what's here, and everybody else below him. So the Darnolds, the Carrs, maybe the Aaron Rodgers. So this is a pool you got to pick from, unless you want to draft one of these guys, and that's okay with me too. But I think some fans think, oh no, Well, what you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna be at the end of your road, like quarterbacks, if you were running the team. So my thing is, listen, do you want to be in this position as a Titan fan or as an organization? No, you don't want to be in this position. But now that you are here, what's the best course of action to get us out of here?
So I mentioned something that Robbie Stanley said about not taking flyers on quarterbacks. He texted me to clarify, and I want to clarify this as well. This is what Robbie said to me on the quarterback front. Yes, everyone is a flyer. My point is you need to be convicted with your quarterback choice if you're drafting one. They took Malik Willis in the 3rd round because he was still there, and they wanted to take a flyer on him. If they loved Will Levis to the point where they thought he could be a franchise quarterback, why didn't they take him at 11? There is no way they could have possibly known when they passed on him at 11 that he would still be there at the beginning of the 2nd round. Then he was, and they were like, oh, cool, let's go get him. If you were really convicted that he was your franchise guy, they never would have passed on him at 11. That's what I'm saying.
And that has...
So they should have taken him at 11, and that would have made him a different quarterback? Because they were more convicted?
I understand what Robbie's saying.
Then you'd be out a bad quarterback that you're trying to get rid of.
Tackle.
First round money devoted to that quarterback and not have Skoronski. That makes no sense at all.
But I understand what Robbie's saying. And I've said this about this year's draft. If you believe Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or Jackson Dart, whatever guy,
or Quinn Ewers,
whichever one of these guys you feel, if you feel that much about that guy, if you are that convicted about him, then draft him. It's your guy. Like if you
only get 5 guys that you're picking, you're convicted to every person you're picking.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are.
Willie, I know.
Come
it's
on.
not. It's not a total. But again, when you're drafting that high, because there may be people in the room that don't want to draft this guy, there may be people in the room that do want to draft this guy. Everybody comes to a consensus. Let's draft.
I do not.
Let's draft him, but let's don't draft him.
My
thing is, if you have the number 1 pick in a pool of quarterbacks that are in this year's draft, if you feel that strongly about him as an organization, draft him. That's all I'm saying. If you feel that strongly about a guy, then draft him. If you don't, then there's still some trepidation with that quarterback. There's still some type of maybe. If you feel that way, then don't do it.
Were the Panthers pretty convicted when they selected Bryce Young?
I think they were. Yes.
And how's that gone?
But they were convicted. They were convicted about it.
Great. Where does that get them right now?
But if they were
Zero.
not, hold on. If they were not,
They
Then what?
traded up to get the
No,
first
no.
pick.
And
They
then they went-
traded, and they got him, and now they have a bag of footballs
No.
and,
He's got
and
no.
boomer kickoff tees.
He's
They got
gotten better.
nothing.
He's gotten better.
Oh, great, he's gotten better. What was where are they picking this year?
They are picking in the top
Yeah,
5.
right.
But again, they
They're
moved
not
up.
good.
They moved up because they had conviction
had
about
conviction,
the quarterback.
right.
Because they didn't want CJ Stroud. They could have got CJ Stroud. They wanted a Bryce Young.
Okay,
So they
but
went up and got
when,
him.
when the Chargers picked Ryan Leaf,
They
after
wanted Ryan Leaf.
They were convicted. You think
Exactly.
the Chargers fan? Yeah, but we were convicted.
Listen,
He had that great win over the Tennessee
it does-
Oilers at Vanderbilt.
Willie, we're talking about
we were
draft. We're
convicted.
talking about drafting a guy that high.
I know.
If okay,
I'm kidding you, but come on. I feel like when you only make 7 picks every year, you're convicted with all those picks.
No,
You're
because that-
convinced all those guys in the moment are the right person for your team.
so when you draft a guy in the 7th round, you're convinced that he's going to make your
You-
team.
you,
No, you're not.
you have some scout in there saying, I think this guy could have something. That's
but
what you're
again,
hoping
you're
for.
not. You're not. You're just like
you
okay.
know, but you're balancing that with
Uh-huh.
the probability.
So there's no conviction in that one.
the probability, you have to take your emotions out of it. This is the bet that this goes back to that study
Mhm.
that I reference all the time. It's about probability and numbers. You can be as convicted or as
If
cynical
you
as
look
you
at
want.
the numbers and
The
you
numbers,
look at the probability,
probability is what it is.
okay, that's
You're
a part
going to
of-
hit some and you're going to miss some. The key is, are you good enough that you have a good batting average year in and year out? And the Titans are very low in the batting average right now.
Listen,
It has nothing to do with how convicted they are.
We are talking about the number 1 pick. Okay.
Yeah.
If you go through all your analytics and you go through all of the how many guys hit and miss, you go through all of that. But then also you have that thing and you're like, okay, you put all that together. Okay, the numbers tell me this, and it matches how I feel. This is the guy that I'm drafting. I'm not looking at anyone else. He's the guy that I want at number 1. I'm not talking about at number 15 or 30. At number 1, if I feel that way about him, then I'm drafting him.
I hope
if-
that the Jets or the Raiders are really convicted about Shedeur Sanders or whoever they want to take at the first pick, and they give me a lot of extra picks.
If it matches up,
Be as convicted as you want. That's good. I'll take the extra picks. That's me.
this is,
And I'll
you're-
be just as convicted with the guys that I pick.
well. The Titans were.
I'll just have more picks.
No, if they did that, the Titans were in their mind. They had made up their mind. You know what? We're trading out of this
But
pick.
was it
because we
not?
don't-
Was it not a catastrophic move by the Panthers to do what they did? I don't care how good Bryce Young ends up being. Well, I shouldn't say that, but the way he's tracking right now.
Absolutely, it's turned out to be.
When are they going to be good again? They just they completely gutted
But
themselves.
why did you think that?
Because they were too
Hold on, no.
convicted.
Why do you think they drafted Bryce Young? Because the analytics and everything matched to what they were thinking.
Right.
So,
Where are
so
they
what
right
does
now?
that mean? When your analytics match to what you were thinking, everything match up. Now I am dead set on drafting. That's my guy. Let's take the word conviction out. I'm just gonna say that's my guy.
Right.
That's my guy. So is that any different from being
Where-
convicted about this guy?
Were
He's
the
my guy.
Titans not pretty committed to Will Levis? They showed a lot of commitment to him. He stunk.
Well, I'm like Robbie. If you felt that he was that much of a quarterback, he could be your franchise quarterback, we'll draft him in the first round. Then I am with him on that from that standpoint. Why would you-
I hope you and Robbie are in my fantasy league, and you guys pick that way and trade up.
No,
I'll trade
I'm
you a bunch of
saying-
picks.
I'm saying, like, if I think he's a franchise quarterback,
Everybody thinks the guy they pick with the first or second pick is the franchise quarterback.
if
About 30% of them are right.
if I think he's my franchise quarterback, and I think he's that dude, I'm not waiting and hoping and praying he makes it to the second round. That's all I think Robbie's really saying. That's all I'm saying.
All right, 2 things quickly before we go to break and have Tim Hasselbeck. We'll
Yes.
rope him into this conversation. Number 1, we had one texter who asked if Willie was role playing today because he sounds a lot like Jared.
Oh, boy.
And number 2, David was in my ear during that segment. We might have to put the word conviction or convicted on our list of banned words and phrases next to generational and checks off all the boxes after that segment. But hey, that was some good stuff. I just sat back and watched. 615-737-1025. Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, will join us next. Willie Dunnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. 1025-1063, The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025-1063, The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst. Tim, I've seen you all over TV today. I do have a question for you. You were on Get Up this morning, and you participated in a round of Good Idea, Bad Idea, which was one of my favorite segments from the show Animaniacs, for those of you out there who remember the show Animaniacs. And you were asked, should the Vikings re-sign Sam Darnold? Good idea or bad idea? And you said, good idea. And you explained your reasoning for that. My follow-up question is, I want to ask you about something that you brought up to us a few times, and it was the first I had heard of it. If the Vikings were to re-sign Sam Darnold, should the Titans look to acquire J.J. McCarthy? And what do you think it would cost to pry McCarthy out of Minnesota if they commit to Sam Darnold?
Yeah, so let's pretend they sign Sam Darnold. They will be committing starting quarterback money to Sam Darnold. At that point, you have to then look at J.J. McCarthy. I don't think he has a cap hit over like $5 or $7 million or whatever for the next 3 years. So, it's not like signing Sam Darnold means that the Vikings can't afford to keep Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. So the Vikings don't have to move him. Like for context, I want to say that Drew Lock made $5 million this past year as a backup quarterback. Around $5 million for a quarterback is not, or a backup quarterback is not, that's probably the market is probably the best way I could say it. So saying all of that, yeah, you absolutely should call them. They don't have to move them. And so because they don't have to move him, like, what do I think the compensation would be? I think it may be a first rounder. Now, obviously, because you're not going to get the 5th-year option benefit, meaning, well, you would, but you would only have, the remaining 3 years of his rookie contract and then potentially the 5th-year option. So, his value a little bit as a first rounder is somewhat, different. So I think the idea that it would be a top 5 pick, I think that would be unreasonable if you're the Vikings. I think that if it was a middle of the round pick, I think that seems like it would make more sense. I think if it was a late round pick, then I think that a late first round pick, then I think that it would have to be something else along with it. And, not just the 27th pick of the draft. Does that make sense?
Yes. So we've had a spirited conversation today about Derek Carr, who could be a salary cap casualty with the New Orleans Saints. We've gone through all of the scenarios that the Saints could go with Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr as a bridge quarterback if he's cut. I wouldn't trade for Derek Carr, but if he were cut and you could negotiate with him, I would seriously consider it. What do you make of Derek Carr as a quarterback today? He does have history with Brian Callahan. What do you think that fit would be like if that were to happen with Carr and the Titans?
I think it's a good fit because it's an offense that he's played well in the past. I think that when you look at him, and I would agree with you from like the trade standpoint, trading for him means you'd assume, his contract, which, while it's not brutal, it's also, not super team friendly for a 33-year-old quarterback that, a team is moving on from, right? Like, what are his other landing spots? So I think your assessment of it is saying, like, yeah, hey, you cut him? Yeah, and then we can decide the route we want to go. Do we want to, we're dealing with free agent quarterbacks, not something, not somebody that we have to give up, something to acquire. So that would definitely be the route that I would take. And then I would just say this, if we were to take the free agent quarterbacks, okay, so let's just assume that Darnold goes back to Minnesota, because I think that Sam Darnold at 28 years old, I believe he is, 27, 28 years old, like I think he's the best free agent quarterback that's on the market, okay? And he's not a fit everywhere, but he's definitely a starting quarterback in the NFL and, will command real starter money. So get out of, that and then assume that Russell Wilson goes back to Pittsburgh. So now you're kind of talking about like, all right, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, let's say they release Derek Carr. Derek Carr, like you start ranking those guys. Well, like Derek Carr is going to be at the top of that list, I think. Like, maybe you could talk yourself into Justin Fields, but Most likely not. And so, yeah, I think it's a legitimate option. I think it's why the Titans really should try to figure out how they address quarterback, whether it's through the draft or whether it's through a trade during the draft. And if it doesn't work out, like, they're not going to be left with nobody else on the market. Like, that won't happen with the current quarterback situation.
We'll talk with Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst and head coach of the Innsbruck Tigers. Now that you say that, Tim, looking at, the quarterbacks in the draft as well as the quarterbacks in free agency right now, have you ever seen a year like this? Because typically sometimes it's, well, maybe the draft isn't heavy in quarterbacks. Maybe it has one or two, but at least free agency, we can go to free agency and get some guys that we know can play. Or it's flip. The draft is littered with quarterbacks, but free agency, the pool is very small. Have you ever seen a year like this?
It's hard for me to recall like a certain year where it was like, because I think you're right. It does feel like there are cycles where it's like, oh, everyone loves the quarterbacks. And like, oh, no one loves the quarterbacks coming out. I think I would say it this way, though. Like, I think Cam Ward's a really good prospect. I think the kid at Louisville, Tyler Shuck, is a good prospect. I think Kyle McCord is really going to surprise people. I think there are people going to have first round grade on the kid from Ole Miss. Obviously, Shadur Sanders is going to be in the mix to be an early pick. So, like, that's not an awful quarterback class, right? Like, it's not. Now, look, just history tells us that if all those guys go in the first round, some of them are going to be busts, and there's a chance that, one or two of them will be good. So, like, in some ways, I think even when it's like a slam dunk, yeah, look at all these great prospects, I think that there are times where it just doesn't work out that way. Look, you go back to a year ago, like, take J.J. McCarthy as the example. Like, a year ago, J.J. McCarthy was like rifling up, kind of interest from NFL teams, it seemed. And, I think if we were to sit in February, where people thought of, how they talked about him was probably not as a top 10 pick. And, because he hasn't played, it usually is how it goes. The further you get away from playing, the better you become. That he now is a guy that, everybody should be interested in.
Now, quickly, I'm going to go to the wide receivers right quick for you, Tim, before I pass it over to Willie. Are you surprised that Cincinnati is once again franchising T. Higgins? Because you just felt that last year it went to the end and they end up keeping the tag on him. And you thought this year that they would, just allow him to hit free agency or try to get a trade during the season. And it didn't happen. But now they're putting him on the tag again. Are you surprised that they're doing this?
Yeah, I think my guess is that they're trying to tag and trade because, by dragging their feet on T. Higgins, it's delayed things with Jamar Chase. And now they got the same situation with Trey Hendrickson. And so, in the process of them taking their time, T. Higgins has proven he's a number one wide receiver. So now he's more expensive than if you would have, extended him a while back before this, came to a head. And then he'd be middle of the road, whatever. He'd be a highly paid receiver, but wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And as you've delayed it, you've also put yourself in this Jamar Chase situation where he's playing it out, and now he's probably going to reset the wide receiver market. And so now you're going to reset the wide receiver market, have another number one guy. Oh, by the way, your best pass rusher, his deal is up. And so it just ends up being like, by delaying it when the guy can play, you're just making everything more expensive. It's basically what I feel like I've talked to you guys about for years about, hey, Washington, when you knew Kirk Cousins could play, pay him rather than playing the franchise tag game because it just ended up being more expensive and then you lost him. Dallas, when you knew Dak could play, pay him rather than pushing it down, giving him the leverage of the franchise tag. Because basically when a guy gets tagged, like T. Higgins is like, look, I'm going to make $26 million on a 1-year deal, and then I'm a free agent. I can, make way more than that. So basically T. Higgins is looking for real guaranteed money over the first 3 years of his next deal because he's got the benefit of the tag sitting right there. So like the the opposite of that is what Philadelphia is doing, is where they identify somebody can play and they lock him up. And that guy might be, paid near the top of his position early on in that contract, but eventually he just paid like, other receivers in the game.
Tim Hasselbeck is with us. So, Tim, I think you had some discussion on ESPN about Rodgers, and so let's marry that with a Derek Carr, because you hit on the key factor is the financial commitment, right? If you can get into that sweet spot, the ideal thing would be you get good veteran quarterback play without getting in yourself into a huge financial bind. The reason that Carr and Rodgers could be available or are going to be available is because their previous teams dove in and are having to get out of some salary cap issues. It's not that they're awful quarterbacks. So I think you said that Rodgers might be a fit for the Titans. So why would you say Rodgers is a good fit for the Titans? And would you prefer to have him over Carr if the money works out?
I would not, let's just say the money is relatively even. I would prefer Derek Carr.
Okay.
Derek Carr is 33 and Aaron Rodgers is 41, 2 years off of an Achilles. Aaron Rodgers can't move anymore. Aaron Rodgers, I think, has gotten into bad habits because he can't move. So now, is Aaron Rodgers terrible? No, I mean, he would have given you better quarterback play than the guys that were, playing last year. He threw 28 touchdowns and 11 picks, I think is what Aaron threw. It's not horrendous. There are guys that are, that can't do that. So I guess what I would say is I prefer Carr. Now, the reason I said Rodgers is this. I don't think Rodgers is going to have choices. Where else is Aaron going? And, people are like, oh, Pittsburgh. I don't think he's a fit in Pittsburgh. Look, Russell Wilson's 5 years younger, was there last year and played relatively well for them. Aaron's never been in that offense, and I don't think Aaron's a fit personality-wise or any of that. So I think when the dust settles, what is a team that could be a little bit like the Raiders last year, where they missed on the quarterbacks in the draft, right? Because if the Titans don't go quarterback at the very top, there's a possibility they don't end up with one. Well, would we agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, well, now you're looking for a quarterback. Okay. Well, now you are in that realm of all right, well, look, I got to win some games or else we're going to all get fired. So who helps us, maybe win 10 games, 9-10 games? Who can do that? And I think that when you get to that point, you are in the Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr business.
So you think the market for Carr, if I'm hearing you right, will be a little bit more than the market for Rodgers. You think Carr will ultimately get paid more than Rodgers and more competition to get him?
I do, and here's why. Bill Polian, I just remember being with him on a bunch of free agencies over time, at ESPN. And he just was like, look, age, injury history, over and over again. It's always what he wanted to bring up and talk about. That mattered. It mattered. And Aaron's 41 and he tore his Achilles. And he basically ruined, not that the Jets were going to be great anyway, but he basically ruined 2 seasons for the Jets, right? I mean, we kind of agree with that, because he gets there, he gets hurt, and they stink. And then he comes back this year and they stink. So, and they've paid him whatever they paid him over that stretch, over $100 million. So, and on the hook for more. So, there is an element where age and injury history has to be a huge factor, even if, look, Aaron's been a better player, no question about it. But you're talking about playing 16 games and going into the postseason, that is, I mean, he's 8 years younger than Aaron Rodgers.
So let's go one more about Carr before we let you go. If you look and you take away the teams he's played on and you just look at his numbers, QBR, quarterback rating, touchdowns to interceptions, pretty steady through the years. Why do you think he hasn't been on more good teams?
Well, I think his injury history has been a bit of a problem. He's
because he
dealt with
plays
some
the
stuff.
games, right? He doesn't miss games. Other than last year, he really hasn't missed many games.
No, I mean, if you look down, his seasons, basically, you other than last year, he's played at least 15 games every season he's been in the NFL. Like, so he's tough and he's competitive. I also think that sometimes these guys find themselves in bad situations. You just think about, like, he's at the Raiders with Gruden. That thing ended up being a disaster. There was a player in an awful off the field situation. He ends up in jail. Like, the leadership that he showed that season was remarkable. The very next year, they bring in a coach, it doesn't work out, and they essentially, at that point, they put him on ice because they don't want him to get hurt because they think they're going to go get some other quarterbacks in the offseason. So, like, why do I think some of it is? Look, I think he's been really good, and I think he's been in some really bad situations, and I think there's been some unfortunate circumstances that he's been faced with. So, like, that's the difference between Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. That's literally the difference. So, at 34 years old, are you getting the best version of Derek Carr? No, you're not. The best version of him was 2021, where he threw for 4,800 yards. That's probably the best version of him. But do I think that he could come in and throw, 25 touchdowns and fewer than 10 interceptions? Yeah, I do. I think he could.
Tim Hasselbeck, ESPN NFL analyst, joining us on D. Mays, Vingin, and Donick, as he does every Tuesday. Tim, great stuff. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good. See you, fellas.
Yep.
Tim Hasselbeck joining. We'll quickly react to what Tim has to say. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingin, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you quickly before we get to Michaela Blake's at 1 o'clock. Your reaction to what Tim Hasselbeck had to say specifically about Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers.
One thing that was a subtle point, because I thought there was some very interesting things he said in a comparison of Carr and Rodgers and what he thinks the market would be. But the market is important here, because if I'm the Titans, I'm considering a lot of options, but I don't want to overpay for my guy, because I know the guy I'm going to sign, if I go this route, is only a placeholder or a bridge to the next long-term quarterback, regardless of who it is. So let's keep the money down and get good bang for the buck. That's the key question here. But he made it sound like because there's not a ton of, relatively speaking, maybe not too many teams desperate for a quarterback, you might get a good deal on somebody.
And that's why I said, like, you know, when you talk about Rodgers, he doesn't come in with the same sort of demands and leverage and power that he did 2 years ago. He's in a totally different space. Now, whether he understands that and realizes that or not, I'm not sure, but the market will tell him very quickly that, hey, listen, this is what we feel about you. We think you're still a good quarterback, but you ain't bringing you and your crew with you. It's you come under these under this contract, and if we choose to go get somebody that you may have played with, that you have a rapport with, we will. But it's not going to be a only reason we're signing Rodgers is if we can bring his guys too. That train has passed for Rodgers, and hopefully he understands that.
Yeah, look, I am a Saints fan, as I've mentioned. The Derek Carr experience, it's not the most exciting experience there is. I certainly don't love Derek Carr, but like we talked about at the beginning of the show, you're digging through the Goodwill box. All right, what's in here? Maybe I can find, I used to like to go thrift shopping, right? Sometimes you find something that you didn't expect in there, a nicer shirt, an appliance or something. You're like, hey, how did this end up in here? And sometimes it's by comparison, like Derek Carr compared to some of the other quarterbacks who are expected to be available in free agency, or they get cut. He looks better by comparison, right? So all I'm saying is
he's a jukebox person.
Is he the
jukebox person?
I feel like Derek Carr is slightly above the jukebox, the girl at the jukebox on Last Call.
I would think so too.
Yes, yeah. I think I don't know what's one step above that. What's wrong? What's one rung above girl at the jukebox at Last Call?
I don't know what would be what. When you first walk in,
maybe
nah.
She jumps in on your pool game or your darts game.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
She's at the dart board right next to you. You got your crew's playing darts, but she's pretty
or she
cool.
strikes a conversation with you at the bar.
She says, "Hey, we'll take the winner. Exactly. We'll take the winner of that."
There we go.
She's
and you're like, hey, upon further, she's got a little personality.
Yeah,
like, hey,
exactly. Okay.
She's spunky.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe a little bit of a tomboy. She's a
little hangability.
Hangability.
She's got hangability. Derek Carr absolutely has hangability. So it's whatever quarterback the Titans get, if they decide to go the veteran route, it's not going to be a signing that knocks your socks off. You're not going to get that excited probably, but that's the position that the Titans find themselves in. And look, we're going to have plenty more conversations about the quarterback between now and the draft, which is, more than 2 months away. Oh boy. We've got a lot more to get into with the quarterbacks, but we are going to talk to Vanderbilt women's basketball star freshman, Michaela Blake's. She will join us to start the third and final hour of DVD. 615-737-1025. Quick programming note. I mentioned this early. I'm going to mention it again. Due to the call for inclement weather moving into our area, Smashville Live, which was scheduled for tomorrow night, has been canceled. So if you made plans for that, no Smashville Live tomorrow. Hopefully it will be rescheduled. But Michaela Blake's, Vanderbilt women's basketball star, will join us coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063. The Game. D. Mace, Finken, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Vanderbilt women's basketball star Michaela Blakes. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, of course, everybody knows around here you scored 55 points in Vandy's win against Auburn on Sunday, setting the Division I women's freshman record. I host a show with a former collegiate basketball player and a former all-pro wide receiver in the NFL, so I have little to no athletic prowess, but we hear often about athletes being in the zone, quote unquote. And I have to imagine that's how you were feeling in that game, as well as the 53-point game you had late last month against Florida. So take us into that. As you're playing those two games, how are you feeling? How are you feeling as you are setting these records, and what does it feel like to be in that zone?
I think it's just a blessing to be able to set these records, but when I get in those games, I just want to do anything I can for my team and I to win the games, because I feel like we deserve to win a lot of them, and whatever it took, we were going to go to battle for it, and just put our full effort in, and I just having to score those points, but I mean, I couldn't do it without my teammates who made really good defensive plays as well.
Michaela, you were the highest ranked prospect to sign with Vanderbilt under Shea Ralph. You chose Vanderbilt over many storied programs, including UCLA and Tennessee. What was it about Vanderbilt's pitch, Shea Ralph's pitch, that convinced you to sign with Vanderbilt?
I think this was the most family atmosphere I felt. And just coming to this academic institution, you're going to be set for life with this degree as well. But I think for me, I'm really big on family and trust and communication. And that's one thing Coach Ralph did with me. She communicated a lot with me, not only about basketball, but also how I'm doing off the court. And then she checked in with my family a lot. And everybody knows my family means everything to me. So when I see you're putting in the effort to get to know them as well, I mean, it was an easy go.
We're talking with Vanderbilt's freshman phenom, Michaela Blakes. Michaela, now coming in as a freshman, I know and you're so soft-spoken. I'm sure you just like your time. You don't like the spotlight or anything. So coming in as a freshman with all these accolades, how has it been now that you've gotten, halfway into your freshman college year? How has it been now walking campus for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been good, and it's been fun to go to class with my classmates, and I get a lot of texts from them after the games as well, just showing their support and them coming to the game. So, I mean, just to be able to have this community behind me who supports me and makes me feel valued, I love it.
So who are the first people, or who is the first person you run to after you score your 50-plus points after the game? I know mom and dad are right there. Which one is coming at you first?
Well, they were both standing side by side, and I just ran to my mom and hugged her, and then next I just ran to my dad and gave him a hug as well, because they were there for both performances, and they've just seen all the work and sacrificed a lot.
Michaela Blakes is with us, and Michaela, one of the things that we've talked about with your performances is this wasn't a game where you guys were winning easily and maybe everybody on the team is saying, hey, let's get it to Michaela because, she might have a chance for 50. You guys were in really close games. You guys needed buckets, especially against Auburn. So were you even aware of how many points you were scoring, or was it just, hey, this possession, we've got to get a bucket here?
Yeah, not at all. I honestly didn't know my total score until the end of the game when I went to my teammates for both games. But I think just my teammates just have confidence in me that when I have the ball in my hand, something good is going to happen from it. So I think that was just the main focus there, and just to make plays for my teammates as well.
Now, you had obviously a lot of success in high school. You were on good teams there. Did you ever hit 50 in a high school game?
No, I think probably my max was 33. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. So to go to that level. All right. So, Michaela, I went to Vanderbilt. I played hoops way back in an ancient time, but I want to get a feel for how the campus has changed. Okay. So where are you now? Are you able to get over to the locker room here? Are you done with class for the day?
Yes, I'm done with class for the day. I'm in our new facility. We just opened the Huber Center for basketball. So I've been here, and we have practice a little bit later today and film. So I just got the confidence room to take this call.
Okay, so I'm very jealous about the Huber Center because we did not have a great place like that. But tell me about this place. I heard it is, I haven't had a chance to get over there yet. I heard it is out of this world nice.
Out of this world. I think it's the best facility in the country right now. We have everything we need, and it's definitely going to help us with recruitment as well, and just to show how much they value basketball here in sports. I mean, it's a really good sign.
All right, so what area of campus do you stay on? Do you I know a lot of the freshmen stay over in the Peabody campus. Is that where you are, or are you more in the center of campus?
Yes, I'm on Commons where all the freshmen stay, so I'm on that campus.
I've always been curious because when I was a freshman, we were in Branscombe Hall. I don't know if they have freshman dorms there, but it was, not even a block from Memorial Gym. It was a lot easier to get to and from the gym and get over to class. So how do you get over? Do you have a scooter? Do you have a shuttle? How do you get from the Peabody campus over to the gym and to class?
Yeah, I use my scooter a lot. That's my vehicle right now.
Okay, you got to be careful on that thing, right? I mean, is that how most of you guys roll to get back? I know with all the athletes having to get over to where all the complex is.
Mm-hmm. Most people use a scooter, but just because I'm a freshman, I'm not allowed to technically have a car. So a lot of my teammates have cars that they use as well and drive me too.
Hey, Willie, it's not like when we went to college, man. We didn't have all this stuff. We had to foot it, man.
Well, it also helps to know. I would hope some of the upperclassmen are saying, we got to get Michaela to practice. Michaela, can I give you a ride here? Do you have somebody that helps you get wheels?
Yeah, yeah, they're really good with that.
That is good. That is good. So challenges coming up, right? You guys are in a great conference. We've been talking about this in terms of the guys team as well. The SEC is so deep. There's no easy games. What's that like coming in every day in practice and knowing that the job isn't finished until you get to where you want to go, which is the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think playing in this conference definitely prepares us for that. And we have a mindset change that if you have any off night, which we've kind of learned as well, that people won't take it easy on you, and that we have to play every game like it's our last game and that it matters, and we're going to play with effort. So I think we've definitely been learning that along the way, and it's definitely going to help us for the tournament.
Michaela Blake's joining us on D-Mays, Vingan, and Donick. Michaela, you were part of a great family moment last month. You hit a buzzer beater to defeat Tennessee, I should say. Your brother, Jalen, did the same. And I just want to let you know, for the purpose of this, I was born in Durham, North Carolina. I am a diehard Duke fan. I loved your brother when he played on the team. To see him hit that shot, particularly in Chapel Hill against the Tar Heels, was outstanding. I was watching that live. I was thrilled for him. What was that like for you, your family, your parents, having those two moments on the same weekend?
Just a blessing and something you could never really imagine. And just to have my parents at both of those events for us, it was really special for us as a family and something we're never going to forget and always remember. My brother was a little jealous. He was like, you had to one-up me, huh? But, I mean, we're just competitive in that way, too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So you're competitive. Do you talk to them a lot? Are you checking in on each other a lot?
Yeah, we check on each other every day. Whether it's a text message or a FaceTime call, we're each other's biggest supporters, and we're there through everything.
How many times do you get to watch him play on television, and how many times does he get to watch you play?
I think we've caught each other every single time because we play on different days. He'll play Wednesday and Saturday, so I'll be able to catch that. And since he's on West Coast time, it's a little later, so it's not during practice.
Cool.
Michaela Blake's Vanderbilt women's basketball guard joining us on DMA's Vingan and Donick. Michaela, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Michaela Blake's on the program. I legitimately, I was watching the end of that game, Stanford at Carolina. And here was the best part. So after the game, so Jalen Blake's, her brother, transferred from Duke to Stanford, hits a game-winning shot at the buzzer or close to the buzzer at the Dean Dome. And after the game, the people who knew Jalen when he was here when he was in North Carolina, were asking him questions about what it felt like to do that to the Tar Heels. And, he said he'll always have love for Duke. And at the end, he always said it'll be GTHC for life, which is shorthand for go to hell, Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
So that was a big moment for you.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
I was thrilled. I was thrilled for him and thrilled for Carolina losing.
But, it's so interesting. She's getting deservedly so. I believe she's going on ESPN here in a few minutes, which is why one of the reasons why we had to make sure we were efficient, and she was awesome to talk to. Now, so I guess we've given her, we were kind of the warm-up show. We were the opening act. Now she gets to go on the
Yes,
the
we'll be
big
watching
mothership.
her on the television here.
Yeah, she's about to go on there. She's getting these national accolades for 55 points. The biggest moment, though, might have been the buzzer beater to beat Tennessee. Like that for their season, that win is enormous, right? That's got to be equal. So I'm really excited about where that program was going for probably 20 years. They were so consistent going to the NCAA tournament, and it was like if they didn't make the Sweet 16, you were disappointed. That's how consistent they were. They were never – they went to the Final Four when I was a senior in college in 93, and they've had some Elite Eights since then. They haven't been up there with a UConn or Tennessee. It's been one level below that. But they had slipped in the last 10 years or so where the standard all of a sudden crumbled. So to have a player like her come in, have a coach like Shea Ralph, now they've got a lot of momentum. They're still not a heavyweight. They're going to have to be, I think, really efficient to do well in the NCAA tournament. There's so many good teams now. But I think she could be a great magnet to attract even more high-level players to that program because there's so much to offer. And when you see somebody like her choosing Vanderbilt over, she could have gone anywhere. Right?
Yeah, she had.
She was recruited
offers
to
from
UCLA,
just about every
Tennessee, among others.
Wisconsin. You talk about the major conferences. She was being recruited by them, and you make and this gives her, I think, this gives her an opportunity. Whether she wants it, takes it or not. But I think playing in the SEC with it getting the attention that it's getting now on the basketball side, both men and women. Obviously, we know what South Carolina has been able to do. LSU has been at the top of their game for many years. So, and then UT, obviously, and now you got Vanderbilt with this freshman phenom. This gives her an opportunity because of what she's doing and what she's helped building. It gives her an opportunity to be on the spotlight, hopefully with, the likes of Juju Watkins or Cage Beckers or girls like that.
Yeah.
Because she's putting up the points now.
I didn't want to make it about money or anything when we had her on. But
Yeah.
I do wonder, like she is, when you start getting national recognition like this as a freshman.
And I'm not saying
have
she's those girls.
And you
I'm
have
not saying that.
Right. She may not be in that category
Exactly.
yet, but at the same time, the NIL thing is going to come in. She is earning great opportunities here. And you just heard her. She's first class. She speaks so well about the school. That's a person that should have some NIL opportunities, right? And she hopefully is earning a chance to cash in, right? That's just that's how the college game goes now. And, obviously Shea Ralph will be very invested in keeping her and like using her to attract other really good players. They've got a good nucleus right now, but one or two more really impact players. Now you're really talking about a team that could do something.
Bob on our text line says, Till Willie, Branscombe about to be torn down.
Yeah, that's a bummer. The other place I lived was the Carmichael Towers, and they're long gone now. A few years ago, they took dynamite to all those things along West End. The Towers.
Did y'all get something in there that y'all wanted?
I should have got a brick or something.
I was about to say, do you remember like I remember when when Mellon Arena, which was the old arena that the Penguins played in before their arena now. And I remember people were sifting through the rubble, and apparently toilets were something that people really wanted to get their hands on, if I recall correctly. I may have to double check this, but I almost remember it's like that they were running after the toilets. They wanted the old toilets from the Mellon Arena. You couldn't get yourself like a urinal cake or something.
Well, this is, if I could get one thing out of the rubble, okay, this could be a little bit of a PG-13 story, but my last year in the Towers, it was a basketball suite. We had 5 players. Billy McCaffrey was one of them. Kevin Anglin, people remember Bruce Elder. We had some really good players, good guys, tight friends. Dan Hall, and one of us, and nobody would admit who it was. When it was time to clean out the dorms at the end of the school year, somebody left some drawers in the bathroom. They were there for months. They were there for months. Okay. They were just sitting there. Nobody brought it up for about a month. And then after a while, we're like, Who, somebody
Whose
step
drawers are
up.
those?
Somebody step up and admit those are their drawers. But nobody nobody admitted it.
Man.
So
Oh,
for
goodness.
all I know, when they blew up the Carmichael Towers, those
Those
drawers
drawers
are
were
in the rubble somewhere. We'll have to get some DNA and see, were they mine? Like, I was like, they're not mine, but I guess they could have been mine.
What you
Wait,
should have done
Were they
was,
yours?
I don't think they're mine. I don't think so.
you used to do this in school, the time capsule. It's like,
Yeah.
we're going to bury all of these things. And 20 years from now, we're going to have the class open it up and look at all of these things. Someone should have buried those drawers.
Right. I just remember Billy McCaffrey saying, somebody have some pride. Step up and admit it.
It probably was
No,
Billy
nobody did.
McCaffrey.
It might have been him.
It probably was
It might
Billy
have been him.
McCaffrey. Anybody
It's
that says that,
1,000% Billy
yeah.
McCaffrey.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Oh, man. Okay. I do want to read one unrelated text that we
Yes.
got before we talked to Michaela Blakes. That was very funny. Wes in Hermitage, shout out to you. He said, food for thought. So Smashville Live, because of the threat of inclement weather, has been canceled for tomorrow. Wes in Hermitage says, what are the chances that Smashville Live being canceled will carry the same weight as U2 being canceled? And the Predators just win out when we come back.
I hope it does happen.
I think we should call Max Hurst. And I think that's the theme of his pregame show on Saturday. Is to see.
Exactly. Oh man, that'd be funny.
They
Hopefully,
need something.
I'm just picturing, I don't know if player guests were even asked, but I'm just picturing like Luke Shen being like, I was so excited about Smashville Live
Yeah.
tomorrow. And he's going to have the 28 game stretch of his life when
Yeah.
he comes back.
The ironic thing is these guys all come from cities where it's routinely 2 degrees in their hometown. Luke Shen's from Saskatchewan. Getting over to Smashville Live when it's a little snow on the ground, he's like, that's nothing for me, man. I'll get over there. They're all like that. But so I'm sure they would have toughed it out, but maybe you use it like the Sphere.
Right. You need to galvanize the group as best you can. Maybe Bono would have been the guest at Smashville Live, and that
You
would have
never
tied the
know,
whole
man.
thing together. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on anything. Football, hockey, whatever you'd like. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, ESPN did an exercise where they found the best team fits for their top 50 free agents. Who is pegged for the Titans? We'll get to that next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game.
All right. Our thanks to Michaela Blakes. Really good interview with her. Let me tell you about taking it to the bank. Now, you talk about a money player. She has been a money player for the Vanderbilt Commodores on the women's side. F&M Bank, they want to make your financial game smoother and easier. They do it so well. They find locations right in the middle of your communities. And sometimes, if you live in one of those outer-lying towns like Springfield, like Mount Juliet, you love it when your bank is right in there. You know your banker. They know your needs. Your business means a lot to them. That's the idea behind Banking Made Easy on Purpose. They've got 20 locations. They've got one on West End Avenue, not far from where the Carmichael Towers used to stand. So just go to myfmbank.com and find the nearest location to you. And then ask them how they can help you. Tell them what your financial needs are and let them go to work for you. Banking Made Easy on Purpose. We take it to the bank Fridays at 1:45 on this show. Thanks to our friends at F&M Bank. myfmbank.com. Find the nearest location to you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Michaela Blakes, just over my shoulder on Sports Center.
I think our interview was better.
A lot better.
Yeah.
We found out that she takes a scooter over to class. And we also found this was the most interesting thing to me. Maybe not the most interesting, but she never hit for more than 33 points in a high school game. And she has 2 50-point games as a freshman in college in the SEC.
Incredibly impressive. So Michaela Blake's in high demand. Glad we could get her in on the show. So ESPN had an exercise where they took their top 50 free agents. Matt Bowen wrote this article, and he found the best team fits for all of the free agents on this top 50 board. So where do the Titans fit in all of this? By my very rough count, there are 2 free agents in the top 50 that Matt Bowen said are the best team fit with the Titans. The first is Malcolm Kuntz, an edge rusher, I believe from the Raiders. Bowen writes, quote, Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson needs an impact edge rusher to complement his 2 interior defenders, Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat. A knee injury in early September erased Kuntz's 2024 season before it started, but he posted 8 sacks and 29 pressures in 2023. If the knee checks out, Kuntz would have upside in Wilson's system as a 3-down defender with pass rush chops. Well, if he missed all of last season with a knee injury, I don't know.
We'll probably get a few texts on that one.
Yeah.
Here they go, getting another hurt guy.
Yeah.
But this is why these people are available. You have to get over that. You have to get over that. You have to look at what the injury is, and you have to look at how it affects his market value, and you have to hit that. You have to hit that lane of right guy, right system, right price. And quite honestly, they have not done well in that area. As they have roster built in the last 3-4 seasons. And you then, on the back of that, look at those drafts that put them behind the 8 ball, and they knew it was going to catch up. You've got a roster of a team that has the first pick. That's how it's happened.
Malcolm Kuntz, he was a 3rd round pick in 2021. He's 26 years old. He had, what did that just say? He had 8 sacks in 2023. He had 8 sacks and 29 pressures in 2023. But I don't know how much it would cost. That's not part of the article. But a knee injury that cost him a full season, something that may lead to some buyer beware.
Well, I think, too, on the heels of the Bud Dupree, right? That would be front and center stage in the discussion. Let's say they signed him, they brought him in. Robert Woods is another guy coming off an ACL. That's always a tough one. Is do you bring the guy in and hope that he's the guy that doesn't struggle for the first half or full season? I'll tell you where it did work out. They drafted Jeffrey Simmons. He tore his ACL. And by the middle of his first year, he was helping that team, and he turned into a really good player. So it doesn't always backfire on you. You just have to be smart about it.
Listen, if the Titans were in any other position, then I would say, you know what, take a flyer on Malcolm Kuntz. But they're not. They can't afford. They're not in a position where they can afford to take a chance on a edge rusher that had knee surgery. Come back to me next year when somebody signs you to a 1-year deal, and then I'm going to let somebody else sign you to a 1-year deal, see how it works out, because I guarantee you how it's going to work out at least for the first half of the season. He's going to be struggling. He may pick it up in the second half because now he's gotten, beneath this, he's gotten, on his feet or whatnot, so to speak. He's found his footing with that injury, but I want to see a year of him play before I commit anything to a guy like that, because whoever commits to him is only going to be a year.
Well, okay, that brings up a point, though. Could a strategy be, based on where the Titans are, to say, you know what? This year is not that important. This year is an exploratory year. I'm going to use that term a lot, and that term might get X'd out because we have our list of terms that you can't say.
Yes.
the blanking the boxes. We can't say that.
Well, let's just
generational. We can't
Yes.
say that.
No, we can't say generational.
And we have a new one, didn't we? The
conviction.
conviction is
after
now.
your
Have we
argument
put that
earlier.
on there? Have we put conviction on
It's
there?
now on the list.
It's now on the list.
But
Okay.
I am going to, if I were in charge of the Titans, I would say this is an exploratory year. I'm not saying, hey, you've got to win the AFC South. If you do, great. That you want to shock the world, fine. But I'm not putting a priority on that. I'm putting a priority on 2026, 2027. As I move into the new stadium, I want my roster to be much deeper, much better. So if you're looking at a guy like this and you're saying, okay, we know the history of players in their first year after the ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Am I looking at a 2-year deal and saying, okay, I'll buy now, maybe buy a little lower, and hope that years 2 and 3 are better because he'll be more removed from that injury? Is that a little bit of a roll of the dice that you might take in an exploratory year, and you take a different approach than you would if you were trying to win right now? T-Mace doesn't like it. I can already see he's shaking his head. He doesn't like it.
If I'm the Titans and if I was in a different position, if I was in a position that say they were in, 4 or 5 years ago, then yeah, I'm taking a flyer on him because I don't anything that I get would be a plus. I hope it works out, but I got enough guys, enough dudes around me on my team that if it don't work out with him, just taking a flyer, we ain't paying him much. We didn't get a lot of production. Okay, we'll move on to the next 5. If the Titans were in a position like that, then yeah, okay, let's do it. If I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, let's take a flyer on this guy, Michael Koontz. Let's do it because I know I got a bunch of other guys around me, and we just won a Super Bowl. But the Titans are not in that space anymore, and they can't afford to just take flyers anymore. I wish they were.
I think flyers may also be a banned phrase on this
flyer,
show.
yeah.
A flyer. Can we say a flyer or flyers? Which one? Both of them?
It doesn't matter.
Plural,
Singular,
it doesn't matter?
plural.
Okay. Take a chance. Don't take
Okay.
chance out.
There we
Don't take
go.
chance out. Okay. Take a chance on an individual. And I'm going to find some more words. Don't worry about it.
We gotta keep some
A sleeper
Yeah.
pick.
A sleeper pick. I mean,
Dark horse?
I'll
dark
get you a
horse.
thesaurus.
Yeah. We'll
You
get
can
that. We'll
thumb
have
through
a
it.
big thesaurus right there on the table. So when we want to look for other words.
Yes.
And Adam's not around, then we can say those
Yeah.
words. But no, I just wouldn't. I know what you're saying, Willie. I get it. But the Titans are not, they don't have that luxury anymore. That's just like picks. Like you really don't have a luxury to miss on many picks this year, next year, or the year after that, because you're building your team up.
All right. So one texter says, Raiders fan here. I hope I assume meaning the Raiders, bring back Koontz. End of the 2023 season, he looked promising. Well, we shall see. The other player on the top 50 free agent list on ESPN, where the Titans were listed as the best team fit, was Kevin Zeitler, a guard from the Detroit Lions. A guard. You have to say it like you're a pirate. A guard. So that's we might also have to ban we also might have to ban that
Yeah.
way of saying guard. But let me read Kevin Zeitler's
Let's read that,
profile.
and then we will have the discussion on the guards.
The guards. The Titans need to rebuild the right side of their offensive line, and they can start by adding a proven vet in Zeitler. He is a physical inside presence with the power to displace defensive tackles and the movement ability to pull on gap schemes. He routinely wins in pass protection, using his strong base to hold off interior rushers and posting a pass block win rate of 94.4% with Detroit last season. Zeitler is 34 years old. He is 6'4". He is a svelte 340 pounds. He was a first round
6'4", 340.
Right.
He's
He's
got
a
this type of
ballerina,
height, yeah.
basically. He was a first round pick of the Bengals in 2012.
All right.
Listen, if you can get this guy, I don't know how many games. Did he miss any games last year, or has he been injured?
But he's 34. So my first question is, how much longer am I
Zeitler
cutting?
played and started 16 games last season.
In my exploratory year
Mhm.
that's coming, where does a 34-year-old guy fit? We just had some fun at
Right.
Jared's
Mhm.
expense yesterday about Danico Autry, and he wanted to bring Danico back at 34, and it blew up in the Texans' face, right? He ran out of time. My question is, in the context of where the Titans are, why not just re-sign Radens? Is this guy way, way better than Radens for the next 2 or 3 years?
I think so.
Right.
I think he would be. I think he would be. Thank you, Jared. I appreciate that. I think he would be. Now,
Yeah?
listen,
But what's the price
I
difference too?
I understand the dilemma that you're posing here as far as
I mean, Radens
the
is still
money
young.
and then the age. I get that point. But my thing is, I don't think Zeitler had many injuries because it seems like he played the same amount of offensive plays with the exception of 13 and 14 early on in his career. And maybe was he a starter then, but 19, I think he may have had an injury. But for the most part, he's played, a lot of plays. I don't think he missed many games because that Lions offensive line, they've been cohesive.
He did not play in the divisional round loss to the Commanders. If I recall correctly, that was a big deal.
Mhm.
He suffered a hamstring injury against the Vikings in the regular season finale and did not play against the Commanders, a game in which the Lions lost.
It wouldn't be a long-term deal, and it wouldn't be if I had to, if I can get him for the right deal, then I would do it.
But aren't we looking for long-term solutions and not short-term solutions or longer term?
But do you think Dylan Radins? I mean,
It
I'm not
depends on
saying
the- it
I'm
depends
not
on the
saying
price. It
I'm not
depends on the
saying
price.
that
I
you
don't know
can't
what the price is gonna
draft
be.
a guard or
I'm sure
you know,
Radens is
you-
on that list somewhere, right?
I don't think
Adam,
I
like
don't
he's
think
probably
a free agent, is he?
He is a free agent. So is he on this list of
He
Not
was
for
some
not
other
50.
team?
he was not listed in the top 50.
Not top 50.
Man, maybe my bar is so low. But how many guards are out there? Like who lets good offensive linemen go? That's my. This guy's 34.
They may end up signing him back. You never know. Detroit may end up signing him back.
So I'm looking at some of the other
Right.
offensive. Okay, that's being banned.
No, don't ever
That's
ban
being
that
banned.
one.
That
No.
that's being banned too.
Nope.
So these are the offensive linemen listed on the top 50. Trey Smith from the Chiefs. He's number 2 on the list of the top 50. He's a guard. Ronnie Stanley, the offensive tackle from the Ravens,
You
is
said
number.
Robbie Stanley?
No,
No.
not Robbie.
Robbie Stanley.
Robbie Stanley did
Robbie's
talk
a
about
free agent.
Robbie did talk about Ronnie on the morning show today. Ronnie Stanley is an offensive tackle for the Ravens. He's number 3 on this list. I'm looking for other offensive linemen. Cam Robinson, an offensive tackle, is 15th. Is it Freeze? Will Freeze? Or is it Will Fries? It looks like Fries. I think it's Freeze. Will Freeze, a guard. He's 18. Zach Martin, 20th. So there are plenty of offensive linemen on this list. A couple of centers as
Not
well.
named Dylan Ray.
Not named Dylan Radens.
But you're the priority is
Yes.
the right tackle, as we
Exactly.
know, right? So
Yeah.
that's where your budget should be pointed at. I think you can find a guard. That's why I'm curious what the market is, what they see the market is.
The
for
only
Raiders.
top 50 player on this list who has ties to the Titans, as far as I can see, is Ernest Jones, who the Titans had and then traded. He's at 46. But there are no
I love it.
I'm getting really close to banning it. I feel like we all three of us, as we're making this list. And by the way, if you have any words or phrases that should be banned on our show, you can text us
Yeah.
615-737-1025. I do believe that we should all be given a not quite a veto, but executive power.
Mhm.
Like we should all get one time we can say, I am banning this and nobody can argue it. And that sounder is getting very
Hey,
close.
listen here. No. As the producer here, the executive producer, maybe.
Okay, whatever.
Remember, David has the last call because he's
Yes.
got the button.
Yes,
He's got
David is the
button.
one that
buttons.
makes sure.
I have
that-
all the buttons
Yeah.
here.
He has
David is the
control.
one that makes sure that we get on the air.
He has
So,
his finger on the button.
literally has his finger on the button. All right, I digress. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that. I think Dylan Radens is a really good story, considering where he was.
You're right. He
and-
was on the Caleb Farley
Mhm.
Yes.
pathway
Yeah.
of why do we even have this guy on the team? This guy is just pathetic. To okay, he's at least turned his career around to get starter reps in the NFL. That's a success story from his standpoint. It's probably going to earn him
Mhm.
another contract somewhere.
And I think you got to also sort of decide on this whether, okay, if I keep Dylan Radens, does playing alongside Cushenberry has that made him better when Cushenberry was playing? And if we get a bona fide right tackle, it doesn't have to be the best right tackle in the National Football League, but a right tackle that can do his job. Will that make Dylan Radins a lot better? I think J.C. Latham and Skoronski playing together made each other better. Now, they could have been, much better than what they were, but you saw the progression. You saw the development in both of them. I think that's what you need on your right side. You need two guys, one that can make the other guy better, but then that they can develop together.
Josh, before we go to break, Josh on our text line wants to know why we're banning words. It's just there are certain phrases that we use as a crutch sometimes that
And you
become
go to it too many times.
overused in sports talk. Like one of the banned words is generational. That word is so overused, it's lost all meaning. Players who are not actually generational get termed generational, so it loses its punch. So we're just having fun here. I'm just saying that there are words and phrases that I'm trying for us not to use, like checks off the boxes. Rand Carthon got grilled for using that in an interview during the offseason when he said, hey, we checked all of the boxes when it came to our offseason checklist. And
The ball didn't bounce his way.
right,
either.
like
That's a-
right, like Jared, skewered Rand Carthon for saying that, and others did as well. So we're just having some fun here.
The word great too needs to be another ban.
Andrew
word.
from Dover says we should ban right tackle. I think we're going to end up having to talk about right
Yes.
tackle, but I think we can ban the way that we say it. It has to just be he plays right tackle, not he plays right tackle or whatever it is.
Do I need to tell you the right tackle story?
Yes, the right tackle story is absolutely banned on this program. We're just having fun. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. I thought we could talk about this Bengals stuff, because I thought that's interesting stuff.
The T. Higgins part of it is interesting too, because about a year ago we
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Hey, this is Derek Mason. You heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or a goal to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
Duval.
We will not be banning Liam Cohen saying Duval. That is a keeper. We're going to be using a lot of that come football season. So that will not be on the banned list of words and phrases and sounds. Because I always get a kick out of it, even if it makes me cringe.
But if there are suggestions,
Duval.
oh boy, we do need to put a cap on how many times we can use that, though.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no. I won't do it like
Well,
every
football
single day.
football season is not around the corner. Actual football season. But I'm sure during Jaguars weeks, we'll be playing that a lot. But we will take suggestions for our banned words and phrases and sounds on our text line 615-737-1025. I saw this headline on ESPN.com talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. They are aiming for deals with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson. They all need new deals. It's going to be really interesting to see if the Bengals can pull this off. And it starts with T. Higgins, who is set to hit free agency on March 12th. According to ESPN, one team source says they believe the Bengals will use the franchise tag on Higgins if no long-term deal is reached by the March 4th tag deadline. Quote, in order to have time to get a deal done, can't let him walk. Sports Illustrated reported Monday that Cincinnati planned to put the non-exclusive tag on Higgins. This would give the team and player until July 15th to negotiate a long-term deal. And if no deal is reached, Higgins would play on a salary of $26.17 million for 2025. Higgins played under a franchise tag of $21.8 million in 2024, and a second tag in this crease triggers a 20% increase of the previous payout. So the Bengals have some hoops to jump through here. I'm really fascinated to see if they can pull it off.
I remember a year ago, D. Mace, we had a lot of discussions about T. Higgins because it was an easy one to put together. Played for the Bengals. Callahan knows him. He would know the offense. T. Higgins grew up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Played for the Oak Ridge Wildcats, which was my mom's alma mater, by the way. Oak Ridge High. Go Wildcats. And there was a sense that T. Higgins, wouldn't mind coming back and playing in his home state or whatever. But I'm really curious how this one plays out. Because a year ago, I think we were saying, well, they'll hang on to him for one more year, and then they'll have to pay Jamar Chase. They're already paying Burrow a ton of money, and they just won't have enough funds to keep a guy like T. Higgins. But how do you think the Bengals will end up playing their cards here? How badly do they want T. Higgins to stay with what they're going to have to pay him?
Man, I think
wide receiver translator, please.
I'm with Tim on this one. I think it's if they can work out a deal, then great. If they can work out a deal that's going to pay him under market value or what he thinks he's going to get, then yeah, they're going to try that. But I think ultimately, this gives us an opportunity to have that franchise tag on the table, and if he doesn't accept it, then he has to sit out the whole season. If he accepts it, now we are in a position to trade him or work out a contract and trade him in that aspect, or allow him to work with another team to figure out how we're going to facilitate a trade. So I'm with Cincinnati. I'm in agreement with how Cincinnati is doing this from the sense of, we're going to lose them. But since we have since we have the leverage in the sense of we can offer you the franchise tag, I would rather offer you the franchise tag and be able to get picks for you rather than just allow you to go in free agency. Now, free agency works for it works for him, T. Higgins.
Right.
But I mean, if I'm Cincinnati, I'm thinking we're losing the third best player on offense. We got to get something back.
Player.
Exactly. We got to get something back.
Okay. So let's say that the Bengals are talking with Higgins and they say, we're going to have to trade you here. And he says, well, hey, I love Tennessee. I don't know how this would go. But let's say he hits the market and the Titans are like, okay, we see a fit here, but can we make this work? Are you going to trade an asset to get T. Higgins? Knowing how few draft picks you have right now and what's going to cost and where your roster is, That's a
If
tricky
I
one.
did, if I didn't have Calvin
'Cause
Ridley,
he's
I
still
would.
young,
Yeah,
right?
If I didn't have Calvin Ridley, I would. If I already had my quarterback underneath center, a young quarterback, then maybe I would, because essentially that's what Philadelphia did. They had Hurts under his contract already, so that money was accounted for. So they signed, I think they signed AJ before they re-signed Hurts. Yeah, they signed AJ before they re-signed Hurts. They re-signed Hurts to a friendly deal, which he's still making a lot of money, but ultimately as the deal starts to age, it becomes more team friendly. And then they go out and sign Devontae Smith to a huge contract. So it can be done, but you're looking at 3 guys that are under the age of 30. You know, if the Titans already had their young quarterback, you sign
yeah.
Calvin Ridley, then I'll be like, okay, make a run at Higgins.
If Levis had done
Exactly.
reasonably well, this would
Absolutely.
have been something I think we would really be talking about
Absolutely.
right now.
Because I think then you can justify it in a sense. Like the rookie is still under the rookie contract.
You've got the rookie contract for Levis for 2 more years.
Exactly.
So these would be the moves that you would be in play, but because of where they are, you probably can't go there.
Exactly.
It's probably not the way to go.
According to ESPN, Jamar Chase, coming off a Triple Crown season, will be looking to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL, possibly by a wide margin. And Hendrickson has back-to-back years of 17 and a half sacks at a time when elite pass rushers are making above $30 million.
That is not going to happen. What they're talking, they said the same thing about Jefferson. They said the same thing about Tyreek Hill. I mean, I think Tyreek Hill did reset the market, but then everybody after that, he's going to and it's never that. He's not going to get $20 million more than Jefferson.
By annual average salary, Justin Jefferson is number 1 at $35 million, followed by CeeDee Lamb at $34 million, AJ Brown at $32 million, Amon-Ra St. Brown at a hair above $30 million, and then Brandon Ayuk and Tyreek Hill at $30 million even.
What they should be saying is he may get the most guaranteed money. Guys now, they should understand. It's not about the average salary that you get. It's about the guaranteed money that you're going to be making. That's what it is. The average is for the agent. That's for the agent.
Okay, so guaranteed at signing. Justin Jefferson, $88,743,000, followed by CeeDee Lamb at $67 million.
It's going to be around the Jefferson. That's what it's going to be. Okay. Maybe a couple $1 million more than what Jefferson, and then the average out will probably be about $1 million more than what Jefferson makes. It's not going to be, Jefferson's making what, 35 or 38
per year?
Yeah. What is his average?
Jefferson's making 35.
Yeah, so it's not like what he's going to get 40 or 40. No, I don't think any GM is going to do that. They're not.
Even for Jamar Chase.
They didn't do it for Jefferson, did they? And I think Jefferson is the better receiver.
Okay.
Not that much better. It's not like he's on a planet of his own, but I think Jefferson is a better receiver. No one's going to pay him on average $5 million more, because you know what happens? The next guy's coming up. And now it's going to be a huge jump. GMs are not going to do that.
Well, we talked about this with the quarterbacks a few weeks ago. It's the pressure of precedent, right? It's mostly about when you sign. That's how it works. I thought this was an interesting part of this story on ESPN.com. Quote, quarterback Joe Burrow has been vocal this offseason on wanting the Bengals to spend to keep his 3-star teammates. In an extended interview with the Pardon My Take podcast, Burrow was asked to describe how his 5-year, $275 million contract extension signed in 2023 could be altered and help give the Bengals extra salary cap flexibility. Quote, you could convert some of the money to a signing bonus, which will lower the cap hit. You can push some of the money to the back end of the contract. That lowers the cap hit. And then when you get to the back end of the contract, you can restructure it and convert it to a signing bonus. You can also just take less money. That was Joe Burrow attempting to explain how he could help in this process.
Well, I mean,
Burrow's a key guy. We know what Brady did over the years. And we know the Bengals, this is all a big part of the Bengals, and why this gets talked about with them more than some teams is they are labeled as a team that is very frugal, right? And the Titans would be in this class as well. Family-owned, old-school model. The owner is not swimming in cash. It's harder for a small market, family-owned team to do that. And they have a big reputation for that already. and they got some pretty good players here. So this is, I think, for a couple years now, people have been looking since they made the Super Bowl and saying, okay, let's watch and see if they can keep all these guys because it won't be easy. And what does it do for the rest of their roster if they do keep them?
Well, I mean, that's the dilemma I think any team in that is competing for a Super Bowl has been to a Super Bowl. I think Kansas City runs into that a lot each and every year. That's why they've restructured Pat Mahomes' contract to what it is now, because they're trying to push some of that money out so then they can go and get individuals. Maybe Joe Burrow ends up doing that. We know Tom Brady did it. His years in New England, Tom could have easily been a receiver that really broke, the bank in regards to what he earned. But he didn't. Why? Because he understood, I'm gonna get my money, yeah, but my championships bring more money. Hence, that's why he's doing, what is it, Fox for $300 and some million. Why? Not because he's Tom Brady, because he won 6 championships and he was the quarterback that quarterbacked those teams. So, I mean, I think Joe Burrow is looking at it more so from that standpoint. If he could take a little less to keep Higgins and Chase, then I think he would do it.
He's not hurting for cash.
No, not at all.
That'll do it for us today.
Us, on the other hand,
Yes.
I don't know. I can't speak for you guys.
I would love to
David,
just
I don't know. I can't speak for you.
I
could all
can't-
use a little extra
I
scratch,
could,
right?
yeah, just a
Yes,
little more.
absolutely.
Talk to Joe. Let's talk to our Uncle Joe Burrow. Hey, Joe.
That'll
some
do
money.
it for
That's
us
a Jimi Hendrix
today.
song. Hey, Joe.
Be safe with the snow. Be prepared. It's supposed to start snowing tonight, I believe. Be safe if you're traveling. Be safe tomorrow. We will be with you at 11 o'clock tomorrow, no matter how much snow there is, because we're here for you. We're like the U.S. Postal Service through rain, sleet, snow, whatever that thing is that they say. Nevertheless, Stone and Company coming up next.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Tuesday. Peace.